Welcome to a live stream featuring myself, Aaron the Pedantic, and we have with us today the glorious Dark Knight of Hibernia. Say hello, good friend.
I give you all a kiss and a candy bar on the top of the morning, TSRs.
This is what we get for having an Irishman a day after
St. Paddy's Day.
Was it 2 days?
Oh, no, it was yesterday.
I've slept since then.
It's the 17th. We have it on. Yeah, it's all good. Look, it's not cultural appropriation if I do it.
We have so I'm tempted to just dive right into the big subject, but at the same time I don't want to do it until there's a fair number of people here. So I guess what I'm probably hopefully
shoot the crap,
some legend hopefully will go into the comment section and then put video starts at, and they'll put it for exactly the timestamp where we start talking about the subject is at hand. But I kind of wanted to make sure that we have a few people before we get started on the subject at hand. We got Eric Martin saying dive. We got iCrit saying what's up, people, and it feels like forever since I've done a stream. I don't know why. It just feels like a long time.
Yeah, but it was like we had one a couple days ago with what was it? Was it the encounter? Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was like a week ago.
Your audio's coming in kind of funky. Let's try and.
Oh, it's the weather is a little spotty where I is.
It sounds like it's vibrating. Is what it sounds like.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Oh yeah, it's just my mic was a bit further away. Fiore.
Fiore, we needed you for this one. We absolutely needed you for this one. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Wow.
one time. Wow.
We got
5e content. Wow.
I was just about to say we got 5 people so we can start. Then it went down to 4. What the hell?
Damn.
People?
Mike was.
They saw Fiore and ran for the fucking hills. That's what it was.
Watch your language. First
Dang.
30 minutes.
Oh, dang it. I forgot.
Demonetized.
Hey, Marv.
Gotta make that money.
Yeah, we can hear you. Well, I can anyway.
My mic was disabled, so I had to reload.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
All right. So for those that missed the secondary introductions, we had Fiore Diganzi and
yes, the one and only
Marvelous.
Yeah.
Whichever you prefer.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got let's see, we got some comments. Hank was just saying I was just lamenting. Oh man, my thing is taking forever to load. I was just lamenting the fact that I didn't have another Aaron video. So yeah, I promised that I was going to be more active, and then what happened is I went back on my diet. So I've been adjusting to my body not getting carbs, which means being very sleepy. So that sucks. After a full day of work, I'm just like, oh man. I'm also reading a lot, and so excuses. I also have been playing a lot of D&D, which is something I hope you would expect somebody who has a D&D channel to do. Let's see what else.
Hank Barnett asked, "Is your Discord public?" And I believe it is.
Yeah, it is. It is very, very public, and I can provide the link in the description whenever we get.
It is based, and it is true SR, and it is wholesome.
Wholesome, depending on which section of the channel you go to, because we do have some trash panda sections, and they're pretty glorious. Let's see. So I'll just cover some more chat stuff before we get to the main topic. While people are piling in. Arnman says, "I'm here, so you can start now." And Arnman, for those who don't know, he plays a cleric in the Greyhawk game, and he's a very, very awesome cleric.
Is he a servant? Is he a servant of Sir Michael of St. Cuthbert?
No. They haven't met those characters yet. So.
No, I'm sad now.
Let's see. Norns asks, you plan on more DCC stuff or sticking to 2E and OSR stuff? DCC stuff, I'm gonna definitely get back to it. I've been digging very, very, very deeply into first edition since that's what I'm running right now. But truth be told, my heart belongs to DCC, and that's kind of like my that's the game I want to go to anytime that I'm not doing this grand sweeping campaign thing. So like I'm sure there's gonna be more DCC stuff coming. In fact, there's a review that I've been needing to make for a while because I ran Frozen. No, I already did Frozen in Time. I'm pretty sure I already did my Frozen in Time review, but I ran another one. Oh, was it
did you do Stars? Starlit Seas? Have you done that one?
Of course I did that. Of course I did that. No, it was
I just
Moon Slaves of the Cannibal Kingdom. That's the one that I ran, but I haven't done the review of yet. But long story short, it's really cool. It's very much worth trying.
What was the one where? Yeah, I know you had us. There was a feast, and we went into another dimension with a giant, and there was this. What was that one? What was that one again?
That was the one with the blue lady. I can't remember. What that was called.
Oh, it has the fortune. That was it. Yeah. Because I remember playing in that. That one was weird.
Yes, it is weird. It's weird, very cinematic, kind of railroady, but
that's how funnels are in general.
That's how funnels are, my dude. It's why I don't do them. To be honest, I just start them at level 1.
What's up, Chris Johnson? Yeah, that's completely valid, and even the DCC people seem to have been okay with that because with Lankmar, they're like, we're just gonna start you level 1. You just get
like the idea of funnels, though.
Yeah, they're fun.
It's a lot of work to make a new character, though.
Yeah, like I'm not against funnels in theory. I just don't I will do a funnel one time, and then after that, like, okay, everyone's starting at first level. I'm not dealing with the hassle of everyone, their characters dying, then we have to make a whole another one and stop the game. And I'm just like, just make 2 characters at first level, and just be done with it. I'm a generous DM.
15 characters to go into the funnel.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, you used one. Time for the next one.
Yeah, I just prefer to just get through I just prefer to think, hey, you're competent. If you're starting at my game, you're at a level competent enough to do the stuff that I throw at you.
Yeah,
and if you die,
likewise,
then you
I believe one of the issues of Gong Farmer's Almanac has a funnel simulator where you just roll on some tables to automate that somewhat.
Really?
That's fair.
That's hilarious.
That's kind of clever. That's like doing the traveler version of it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Did you die in character creation?
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't travel. Yeah, basically, doesn't Traveler like do that in between sessions because of the amount of time it takes that you're traveling in between sessions or something like that?
Out of ignorance. So
yeah, this is what I heard
because I Traveler. I only know it from the memes.
Yeah,
the character creation it depends on which version of Traveler you're playing, but
I have the
known for being lethal in character creation.
I have the black cover Mongoose version. I haven't read it cover to cover yet, but what I've skimmed and what people told me, that's kind of how it works. But I'm probably wrong. So
So Chris Johnson asks, do you stick to DCC miscast raw even if the wizard teleports 10 miles, maybe 100 away? Short answer, kind of. So basically, what I have used it so far. I have stuck to it, but I have had the occasional time when the player brand new is going to get something that's just absolutely basically makes it where they will never use that spell, and that becomes so undesirable as far as the gameplay is concerned that a lot of times I'm just like, we're just going to ignore that one. We're just going to consider that you rolled at a 50 or whatever it is that ends up being a no result. The positive ones or the ones that are like middle, okay. Like for instance, one of the ones that we got was the one where you heal everybody around you. Well, this guy got that whenever he cast Chill Touch. So it was kind of humorous because he's about to cast a Chill Touch and he's going to have to go into melee range with an enemy, but he heals everybody around him whenever he first casts it. So it's kind of like optimally he casts it from the back area and then he runs up and then puts himself in danger in order to lay hands on the enemy. And that was kind of neat, but I think ultimately a lot of people end up ditching it, and that's completely valid. You do have a whole other tier of ways that things can go bad by, the spells just failing miserably and having terrible corruption and all that stuff. Oh, but if you're talking about myth, okay, I was talking about what's it called?
Mercurial magic.
If you're talking
Mercurial
about
effects, yeah.
miscasts, if you're talking about just miscasts, yeah, I stick with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
even if they get teleported 10 miles away, I'll stick with it. That one I'm pretty strict on. I don't remember seeing any that were that serious, but if they did do that, then I would probably stick with it. I'd just be like, okay, we're gonna figure out what happens to your character, like maybe some other time. I don't know, but let's give you some level zeros.
Likewise, I believe DCC Lankmar has magic stipulations that you can use instead of the mercurial effects, or in tandem with them.
Yeah,
if you want to go like completely bonkers.
Magic stipulations. I haven't read Lankmar, so.
Basically, it's things like you need to have like a certain color candle to cast a spell, or you need to like be completely naked, things like that.
That's really
it's the ritualistic magic. I've heard of something similar in the old D20 days of like Thieves World kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But no, as to what Ye Old Geek was saying in there, because he's a player in my DCC game. When I said that it takes too long to make DCC characters old school characters, I mean it's too tedious. When characters are dying over and over and over again, I'm like, and now we got to do it again, and it's just draining to me. I just rather beef them up and let them have a bit more life, just to save time and my own sanity, because I don't want to get, say, quote, invested in a character only for them to die in like 5 minutes. It's just
that makes sense.
Purple Sorcerer is your friend.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. I'm not used to. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Holy Walter the Sprinkler is hilarious. Yeah, Geeks had Bo the Elf, and he died to a bunch of orcs. They absolutely mutilated him, and then he made basically this what amounts to an INSEL character who like simps for the Whammons, and he like quotes. He's basically a grognard nerd from the 70s, and it's hilarious.
Milady.
He's like, well, actually, kind of character. It's hilarious.
The wife thought I was talking to her. All right.
Chelsea ain't no lady. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Alex reminded, he says, I love how this stream is to dunk on Questing Beast and we just start discussing DCC. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that reminds me, we should get on with it. We do have an actual crowd now. So.
Get on with it.
Yes, let's get on with it.
Honestly, I should probably drop out because I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, just no. Like, look, I have stayed in streams where I had no idea what I'm talking about, so it's fine.
So the rundown is basically
send that man to the brig, and then but no, seriously though, Marvelous, like do what you feel is best.
Okay. I just want to listen in the background because I'm actually also starving and need to make some food.
All right,
I've been working since like 8 o'clock in the morning. Spent all this time sleeping.
Yeah, you don't want to go too long without eating.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go do that. Thank you for having me, though. It was fun,
and if you need,
probably be in the chat.
All right.
Yeah, chime in.
All
if
comers
you need to
welcome.
Chime in. Yeah, chime in.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, so it is for anybody who might mark it in the comment section, perhaps later. 13:45. We're starting the actual thing here. Okay, everybody. Incredible news. I don't know if you've heard, but Questing Beast is an adventurer. Did you know that?
Oh my god!
Dun dun dun.
Yes. We have indeed his testimony that he went deep into the depths of the darkest temples and unearthed the great lore, the lore that has been lost for generations, that everyone had presumed lost forever. That
Aaron,
is.
Did he find the great Gygaxian scrolls? Has he found the D&D?
He did.
Holy
the
shit!
Pro-SR, look no further. The true D&D has been found.
He discovered the great secret that is buried within the Dungeon Master's Guide.
God damn. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the lost
40 years. 40 years and $50, and we finally found it.
Yeah, we finally got there. So what did he find? Well, basically, for those who aren't aware, he found something that it's not really that lost. At least I don't know. I mean, I'm a relative newcomer to the hobby. I knew all about it, and I didn't even have to look very far. People have been shouting from the rooftops about it for quite some time now, at least for 2 years. The Bro SR has been championing this style of play for quite some time now, and even
as much as you hate to admit it, DK, he's right.
Yeah.
Even though they are unrepentant, annoying a-holes at times, they do make cogent points about gameplay from time to time. And I call them a-holes with the absolute well, I'm not going to say respect, but tolerance,
acknowledgement
that I can render to them. Basically, they know about a particular way of playing, and they've been talking about it for quite some time. And I can't help but just have the most immense of doubts that they're the only ones that have been talking about it. There is a blog post that was referenced in the Alexandrian, which basically came out in like 2011 or something like that. So, I mean, that's obviously been around for a while. But I mean, the whole thing is just basically, this is kind of a play style that existed whenever these people were playing, when they were in their younger years, all playing together in these big groups, and just, hey, we've got nothing else to do, let's play D&D, let's do it during lunch, let's do it after school, let's that kind of thing. They don't have like actual lives. They can do this every single day. And so if they're going to do that, well, maybe I can't this day, I can do it this day, that kind of thing. And so you end up invariably having mixed groups of players. And because, they're trying to keep track of this person doing this and this person doing this in the same world, that, now we're going to have to keep time properly. And so now we're going to think about what's called one-to-one time. And oh my God, guys, one-to-one time. It is the hallmark of true gaming. If you don't use one-to-one time, don't you know your game is fake? It is a lie. It is mere fabrication. It is wrong.
Those dice you rolled and those encounters you had and those dungeons you delved, they're not real. It's all a lie. It's all a conspiracy. Don't you see? It's all Sunny and D&D.
Oh yeah, for Frog Night Games, it says, "Is this about West Marches?" Kind of, yeah.
Sort of
West Marches, and that's the thing that's really pretty funny. Is, I mean, the West Marches thing, that goes back, even people have been talking about that since before the Bro SR, I'm pretty sure. And what is the West Marches thing? Well, it's basically about the same thing. You say, hey, let's get a group together. We're going to go this time or that time. It necessitates some kind of time tracking because you're dealing with travel, you're dealing with multiple parties and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, that open world formula is going to create this kind of environment. It's not a huge secret, guys. It's just kind of what happens. By God. That's the thing that I've just found really funny. And I just kind of wanted to not really rant about it, but I just kind of wanted to comment on it. I just think it's funny, I mean, hell, my public game was basically inspired by West Marches, and that was basically doing the same thing. I was using one-to-one timekeeping. The only reason that it didn't get to the point where y'all were having these competing things with each other was basically just because I had like a health scare and I stopped running for a while. So basically that game just, committed seppuku.
Rotted on the vine. It rotted on the vine. It happens, It was fun while it lasted, though. It was awesome.
Hank Barnett says, can confirm I'm Aaron's age and started with 1E. Are you sure you're my age? Because I'm only in my mid-30s. I didn't start with 1E. He says, what Questing Beast talks about is how all of my games have always been and how I expect most others as well. Yeah, most, I don't know about most, but maybe, maybe. But it's just kind of funny. The thing is, I'm not making fun of Questing Beast. Because really all he did was he just kind of, I don't know, the framing kind of made it sound like, you know, unearthing the great scrolls buried beneath the Eiffel Tower or some shit, you know. But you know, honestly, for the most part, he's like, hey, you know, I was reading the DMG and here's how this thing is. And I mean, that's how we all frame things. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with it necessarily. It's really just that some of the reactions have been like, oh my God, what? Are you serious? And I'm like, have you guys not been paying attention at all? You know, like, it's not as if I'm some wizened scholar and some, you know, or anything like that. You know,
wizened.
But yeah, so
you know, Geek, I wouldn't say I wouldn't wing it necessarily, ye old geek. Like, I would abstract it more than most would, but I wouldn't just say like winging it sounds like you're hand waving it. And if you're with all the traveling that I do and the games that I run, I can't really hand wave it. You know, it just
yeah.
I don't know.
You need to have some way of measurement. So this is, oh shit, man, he's just all right. So now he's trying to say that I look younger than I am, though. So that's good. He says that he's 30. You're 30 and you started on first edition. What kind of monster are you? Canceled.
No,
I mean, by then you should have been on third edition, the one true game. You know, never has there been any kind of release of, you know, anything. So the true
D&D was Little Brown Booklets, Chainmail, and Wilderness Exploration. All other D&Ds are fake.
Frog Night Games also says, also my age can confirm AD&D first edition. What the hell? That's crazy. Oh shit. Well, so
for anyone out there, my comments on the 3 Little Brown Booklets, that was a joke. You don't need to get your.
I completely missed it.
Yeah, that's it's fine. Not you, because I know some people will start saying, Dark Knight. No,
I think they're used to throwing some shade at you, so that's just gonna happen.
I know. No.
He is you are the glorious
punching bag.
I don't know, the heel. You're the heel, I suppose. Well, about the winging time thing. So Eron the Relentless, he says 1-to-1 time overrated and implausible. If World is to maintain credibility, everybody cheats it. Well, first off, let's make sure that everybody understands what exactly it is, because you know some people might somehow have wandered in here without seeing the great Questing Beast video explaining what 1-to-1 time is. So honestly, I mean, he doesn't go into any kind of serious depth. He just kind of like broad strokes it. But more or less, the formula is that every day that passes in real life since the last time you played has been one more day in the game world. So that way, you know, if you play once a week, then theoretically it's going to be at least a week between sessions in the game time, basically. So all right, let's address this. Overrated? Is it overrated? If you're taking this from the Bro SR, absolutely it's overrated, because they make it sound like it is the greatest thing since Marilyn Monroe having you know, a gust of air beneath her while she's wearing a white dress. You know?
Aaron, how could you?
I guess that is probably not the best thing to say this day and age, but Chelsea will back me up. I am hashtag not that.
Aaron is hashtag wholesome. He is the sweetest person ever. Aaron is uncancelable. Anyone who cancels Aaron is worthy of cancellation. I will die on that hill.
Oh, that's a long list. So overrated. Yes, in that capacity. Is it overrated as just like being incredibly useful? Is it incredibly useful? I'm going to say that it is incredibly useful. I'm going to be. So I'm not using it with my first edition game right now, but a lot of that is just more of sheer fact of the fact that I don't play with the same group multiple times, or like with groups multiple times a week. I alternate between 2 groups every other week, or basically. So group B this week, group A last week, that kind of thing. Actually, it was the other way. No, it was right. That was right. So because of that, it makes it completely implausible. Now, whenever I ran my public game, I used it and it worked perfectly, absolutely perfectly. All we would do is, okay, it's going to take this much time for you to get to this location and this much time to get back. This character is going to be able to go on this quest or on this dungeon delve today on Monday, but they're not going to be available to go on that next one on Wednesday. They need time to recuperate, that kind of thing. You make a new character, and then that way you can play in the Wednesday game if you have time, which what we ended up doing is having multiple referees. So that way that person can run that thing, and we're all playing in the same world. I had some guidelines about what kind of stuff could be put in it. And like they would just kind of tell me roughly like well, not even that. They'd pretty much just tell me what to add on the map, the big map that we have on there, so that, I could mark it on the map, and, we could add stuff in there and, play in each other's dungeons and stuff like that. And that's how it worked. It was not at all really that implausible. Really, especially whenever you're playing multiple times per week. If you're playing at a slower pace, and it's going to feel weird as hell. And you have to end the session outside of the dungeon, or else you're spending 7 rations, perhaps, if you're playing.
Yeah, you're leaving it entirely to the mercy of the DM. Really.
Yeah, we're gonna camp in the dungeon for a week for no apparent reason.
I'm not gonna lie. When we fought the bone golem, Aaron knows exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah, we got trapped. We got trapped because we couldn't get back because we didn't know the password. And the first thing my character started thinking was, okay, we're gonna have to start divvying up bodies because we got a dead cadaver there. So we're gonna have to make that last, or we're gonna start turning on each other. And I'm the one with the +1 axe of level drain. I'm going to kill you all. I'm not gonna starve to death. Like, screw that.
Yeah. Does everyone cheat it though? So allegedly, from the Bro SR's report, and this is just from what people have told me that they have said. I want to say that it was James that told me this, and he's pretty reputable. He said that basically, if you don't get your character out of the dungeon at the end of the session before you leave, your character's dead. That's just it. So, I mean, that's a really good motivation. People to be like, yeah, I'm going to stay until the end of the session, and we're going to play as long as we need to. Some of us have lives, and some of us need sleep for work and stuff like that. Some of us are responsible adults. Not everybody though. So, if you're retired,
not everybody. Think of the devil.
Good day, sir. Good day.
So we're talking about ROSR 1-to-1 time.
Yes, and how questing beast has imparted a divine revelation upon us all.
Yes, as Fiore said, it's not the Broasar 1-to-1 time. It is questing beast 1-to-1 time. It was never ever discovered until then.
The heavens parted, the light beamed down, the voices of
GYGAX himself
and Arneson. He saw a vision of Saint GYGAX and Martyr Arneson bestowing the godly wisdom of the old school, hath descended
presented
upon
on
him.
emerald tablets, labeled with all the information
by choirs of angels saying, "Be not afraid."
Just as they had imparted the sacred wisdom onto J. Scott Garibay.
Yes. Oh, I know you ruined it. Ruined it.
Brendan Davis says, I've been using 1-to-1 time in a modern horror campaign, Monster of the Week, and it works really well in that context. I bet it does.
I'm assuming you'd probably be, for the most part, like in a fairly closed area. I could see that working.
Brendan, what system are you using? Is it Strange Tales of Sangling, Cthulhu?
Monster of the Week. So probably about the actual system and not just like, I don't know, the genre.
Oh, actual effing monsters. Right.
No. Monster of the Week. It's a game.
I thought it was like
the Apocalypse game. I have it on the shelf.
I thought it was the genre, not the system. My bad. Cool.
Let's see.
Well, Iran.
Oh, and for those who don't know, Brendan is the guy who wrote Strange Tales of Song Ling. So I mean, he's somebody that trust when it comes to.
I actually got Strange Tales of Song Ling recently, and I'm I like it a lot. It's pretty good.
It's very cool. I'm trying to I want to run it eventually. So many. But basically the other one that he did, the Heroes at Ogre's Gate. That one is it's a lot thicker. There's a lot more stuff to it, and it's very, very, very major martial arts stuff. And I'm
Aaron
working.
I gotta say, fake news. I was right. There was the genre Monster of the Week, not the system. I was correct.
Oh, damn, he got epic. You got hashtag epic trolled style.
Yeah, you got disproven. You got fact checked. You got fact checked and debunked by DK. For shame, Aaron. For shame.
All right, let's see. Frog Knight says, "I don't think people come back in a month to travel." Okay, so that's a misconception. So
what was that, Dan? What's that? What'd you say, Dan?
I said that would make DK the debunker. Kind of a dubious distinction there.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. But anyway, you were saying.
Frog Knight, this is an excellent thing that needs to be handled. All right. He says, I don't make people come back in a month to travel across the world just because it's a long trip. So here's the thing. If you have this kind of thing going, and it's described in the DMG under like running a campaign or something is somewhere in that section, like halfway through the book. Basically, it has this thing. Here's Group A. Here's Group B. Group A is on day 57. Group B is on day 58. And Group A is going to do this thing, and it's going to take them this much time. So basically, we're going to get them off to this point, and we're going to come back to them. We're going to freeze them for a minute. We're not going to play with them for a while or something like that. Well, we're going to play with this group or something like that. Or we're going to push the other group forward. Like, there's basically some fudgery that goes on there where you're just like, we need to play with another character or something like that for a while just to keep everything straight.
Or here's another way you could do it. You could say either schedule an extra session that week or push, we'll say the 58-day group back a week to allow day 57 group to catch up with them. You could do it that way.
Yeah, that's basically what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't base, and that's one thing that, like, whenever I first thought about it, I was like, does that mean that, you're like, how does travel time work with that? But basically that's it. You just let the you count the days that it takes for them to handle this thing, and you just know that, oh, they're on day this number, and everybody else is kind of around this number, so we'll just balance it basically.
Yeah, it's interesting to note in light of that a lot of people I've talked to recommend having a sandbox map area that takes roughly a week to cross, which kind of syncs up nicely with a one-to-one time game, because you don't have anyone traveling for months,
extended periods of time.
Yeah, I mean that's probably how I would go for quite a while. I mean, the way that I was going to handle it was, you have your primary region, and then if you're doing things outside of it, then there's not even really a map for that, because that's just going to be, it's just going to be kind of like
it's going to be
probably
abstracted.
For
the most part.
I mean, I would come up with something concrete, but it would be
just like it's not as detailed as the map of the specific region you're going to be doing most of your adventuring in.
Right. I would basically, there would be a travel period, and then there would be the destination, and then I'd be like, okay, now that they're at their new destination, I'll just map around that, like the immediate area that they're likely to interact with, and I'll just expand it if they keep going outward, that kind of thing. Let's see.
Also, likewise, I'd like to mention that, from what I understand, with like one-to-one time, the idea is perhaps that you might also be running faction play along with it too. So even if you were gone for like a longer time than you would like to be, it's not necessarily going to be the end of the world. You still have things to do within the context of the game.
Oh, let's see. Was anybody screaming? Eric says screaming isn't necessary. I don't remember.
Am I loud? Or is that, were you talking about?
That's probably me. It's probably me.
Damn it, DK. Let's see. All right. I'm trying to catch up on comments. All right. Yeah, so I mean, part of the reason that this was a lot easier for me was because the channel probably helped in the Discord. Setting up the thing, but I feel like there should be, if not on my Discord, like some other Discord, like people should probably give this a try, especially if you have, because some people are retired. If I was retired, dude, I'd be doing this like full freaking time. But I work a full-time job. I got 3 kids. I got a wife, so I ain't got time to do that too much, not as much as I would. But yeah, I mean, I definitely hell, whenever I retire, y'all can look up my whatever app they have at that point for online play, and I'll be running games all the time. So I'm just gonna be assuming I make it that far.
Rolling holographic dice.
Yes. No, technology just seems to have stopped progressing. So we don't have flying cars yet, so it's
it's only a matter of time, Aaron. It's only a matter of time.
This one has me puzzled. If you have multiple groups, time progresses while people are away, but not in real time. That one I don't understand what his point is. Hank says, I would argue that the rival parties in the random encounter by dungeon level speaks to, or at least nods toward, the West Marches type of play. Maybe. I mean, I would say that it's more likely it kind of legitimizes what your party's doing. But that would be an interesting turn of events, is maybe you add one of the other parties on the table. If you that'd be interesting. So you're in the same dungeon as one that another team is operating in on the same day, and then you roll up a random encounter that is in random actual adventuring party. Then why wouldn't it be? I guess just because we wouldn't want them all to kill each other and then kill each other in real life after they lose their precious stuff.
Also, as well, I call me crazy, but I think that would be kind of fun to have things change in the dungeon over time, because you could leave behind traps or messages for other not only the monsters or really like the factions inside, but also the other players, so you can either help them out or try to screw them over.
Yeah, like Dark Souls, they'll just write with a soapstone, treasure ahead, an
amazing chest ahead.
Yeah, it's like an illusion. They plant a powerful illusion where it's oh, it doesn't look that deep, and it's it looks 10 feet, and then they drop, and it's 100 feet to their death. that'd be kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. Blaine says, I'd imagine if you did have an entire club of 50 or so people with multiple referees all playing in the same campaign map, it would be the easiest way to track time overall as opposed to party time. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly the reason why you do it.
Yep.
Arnman says, lots of cons. What's the pro? All I can do is say that whenever, even with the relatively small scale that we did this at, it still was a blast. Just basically, you had these multiple groups playing. So you had, I don't know, how many players did we deal with, DK?
How many players? Oh God, I think it was per session 5 to 11, depending on the thing.
Session.
But in total, around 30 to 60, I think.
I feel like that's fair. Yeah, and
something like that.
That's a good group.
They all had their own things going on. They all had their own objectives. I mean, it ultimately ended up being, I was running usually 2 dungeons a week, and then eventually I went to alternating once a week. Shield was running one. Oz was running one. Hayden. Who else?
Oz did it once. Shield did it. Hayden did it. You did it.
I guess it's kind of, but ultimately you had multiple groups, and then sometimes they kind of crisscrossed where, one group when I say group, it's not the same people every time. It's just one time slot that we usually play at. They decided to go off to
there'd be some regulars. There would be some people who might be joining up for whatever reason this week, and it was fun.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is that it creates a certain play style. It's very different from the kind of play style that focuses specifically on one group of players. Just the same thing with the West Marches in general. It really makes it a game where it's easy for people to jump in, jump out, and then one of the things that it can do that's unique compared to the other stuff is, we all know that you can run in the same world for all of your games for, 40 years, and you can have a deep history that is created by the players, right? Well, with this, you can actually have that happen on a smaller scale much faster, because already, people were playing in this area where other players were doing a lot of really cool stuff. And there was only one person that was able to get the sword that was designed, the sword that was held by the top slave in the Serpent King's Rest in order to slay lycanthropes. There's only one person that has Hadrian's axe, and there only ever will be, basically. That's kind of the thing, is it's,
and no one but Sir Michael will have Sir Michael's plate. No one else will have it.
Right. And, it kind of legitimizes everything at a deeper level than, just what happens around your table. It expands this living world concept to more people, and they get to partake in it. And it's just really cool. And, that's why it's really kind of sad that I ended up stopping it when I did, because, we're getting kind of into the wilderness exploration being something that was more on the table. And then invariably with level 7s and 8s, we were getting up to the point where domain level stuff was going to be a part of play. And, at that point, it just ends up immense, the kinds of stuff that you can do that. You can, my characters at this point, I don't need to really I need to have my magic user spend their time doing magical research. That's going to take a long time. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to play my fighter and see how that goes. And, next thing I know, my fighter's a level 9, and, I'm raising an army, and I'm getting a stronghold. And, I'm going to go try and take on, we found 400 orcs off in the field. I'm going to take my army. My fighter's going to take his army and wipe them out, so that this group can go in and try and investigate the crypts under where they're camped, etc. All that kind of stuff becomes more doable. And that's what's really fucking cool about it. Now, one-to-one time helps with that. It's not the only way to do it. And he kind of says here, why not 3-to-1 time? Well, it's completely arbitrary. It doesn't really matter. If it's, every 3 days is one game, in real life is one day in the game world, doesn't really matter. The point of it is just to have some manner of progression of time. That's all it really is. So what were you going to say?
No, I was just I was saying, like, the what I really enjoyed about it is the fact that I got to do everything. The 2 dungeons I started in that game are finished. Hadrian got the keep and the bed, Robbie. Suck it. Moose got healed, and Sir Michael got to clear out that snake dungeon and got a helmet. That would have been really great at the start of the dungeon, Aaron.
Yeah. Of course, you put the Dragon Slayer's sword in the Dragon's Hoard.
The Slayer after you killed the dragon. Great.
Oh, yeah. Well, the
great.
Got to keep anyone from getting.
Why would a dragon even have that thing? Why wouldn't he just destroy it?
Somebody else who had it built specifically to kill that dragon. Of course.
Destroy it.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, I mean, a high-level dragon, they're like, if it's a gold dragon, probably, because they're also magic users. So
that's a decent point. That's a decent point. Yeah. They might destroy it, or it might be just that they prize their treasure.
Or maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't know. It's possible. But Eric Martin asks, whose stream is this? and I don't know what in reference. Like, does he mean your stream, Aaron, or
is he being like? Is he being coy by saying that someone's talking over someone else?
Oh well, yeah. You see
what it is.
I'm everyone's freaking punching bag. Everyone hates me.
It reminds me of the New Kids in the Hall sketch. Nobody likes us. Only the cool kids are going to get that one.
Hey, Helenko.
It is a tool for a particular setup, but if you only have one party, it might not be fit for purpose. Absolutely. If you are a weekly group, then there is no freaking reason, and you only play with one group, there's no freaking reason for you to do this. None that I can think of, really. Unless, okay, so maybe. All right, so I'm going to give you a for instance. Maybe if you're playing first edition and you're trying to use all of these other things, because ultimately the big thing is that if you're only having one group, then you can just fast forward when you need to, and it doesn't really matter, because ultimately everybody's going to need to fast forward at some point, whether it's for training or for research or whatever it is, travel. There's fast forward is going to be necessary, but if you're doing it as a group, then why would you need this particular tool? This is really only if you've got multiple parties going. And so, yeah, for almost everybody, I would say it's probably completely pointless. It is a very, very, very specific niche tool. So that's why whenever the BroSR people shout from the rooftops, 1-to-1 time, you can only have a real game with 1-to-1 time. I'm just like, how many of y'all actually have a real game then? Because I'm kind of suspicious that a lot of them probably are full of shit. And that some of, like, maybe they're doing it, but if so, then they're all doing it online. Because I don't think that they've got a whole bunch of buddies doing this in person. I'm just,
Aaron, I'm just gonna be real. Like, a lot of people say like 1-to-1 time is true D&D. It's a puritanical mindset. I don't trust Puritans because most of them don't follow. It's like, oh, don't commit adultery, and it finds out that the puritanical pastor has like 3 mistresses. Like, oh yeah, who could have seen that one coming?
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally the same. Let's see. Frog Knight says, I'm coming from a wargaming route. The idea that if we skip forward to the next engagement is so engraved into the ethos. Oh, yeah. That's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of.
Let's see. He says, I ran a West Marches game, did not use 1-to-1 over 80 sessions, and it ended well.
Cool. I assume congratulations.
Yeah, that is awesome.
That is cool. I've been trying to get a West Marches game going either on another Discord or preferably at my local game store, but so far no luck with that.
Yeah, we're still not really gaming in person where I live. I am. I have like my own group, but as far as like the local gaming store, they're still not letting people game.
Well, I have a local group too, but the store isn't hosting events at all.
I mean, we're straight up forbidden. We can't do it at all up there. It doesn't matter about events.
Yeah, I'm running 2 sandbox style games at the moment. It's a lot of work. It really is. Such as the
Arnman and his
character has to be the actual player too.
Yeah, your character has to be the actual player.
Shit there.
Oh man, let's see. Matt says this seems like needlessly complicating things for no real. This was a while back he said this, so I don't know if maybe
I think he's talking about the idea of 1-to-1 time in general.
Huh?
I think he's talking about 1-to-1 time in general.
Yeah. I get that. I mean,
it has the potential to be that if you're playing with a small group that's very consistent about showing up, and if you're using it in a circumstance where it doesn't make sense, then yeah.
Blaine says, I would be interested to see how it would with domain level play, where different factions of players might be raising armies and have to march in siege. That's the beauty right there. So I was actually like looking. I mean, it's kind of dumb. I was looking up, you know, trying to see if there, because I didn't remember there being anything in the first edition DMG about like mass combat. Then after a while, I was like, well, duh, Aaron, he had fucking chainmail. So just use chainmail, or actually event like they also had the battle system, you know, the AD&D battle system and all that kind of stuff. But so whenever you're getting your armies off to that point, which by the way, I want to do a video on chainmail at one point, because you know, I'm reading it and it's some cool shit. I'm legit like whenever my first edition players, you know, whenever their characters have some armies, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with them, you know. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I would think that would make that very, very, very different. I mean, whenever you have people that are playing in the same group every week in, week out, it has a bit of a different feel than whenever you're just playing with this guy, you know, today, maybe. And then even later, whenever you don't play with that guy at all, you just know that he has a lot of cool stuff, you know. So maybe you want to get your hands on that. I don't know if you know, one of the things Questing Beast was talking about, you know, you had to make a stronghold to protect your stuff from the other players. I'm kind of, I don't know if I buy that. I mean, I guess some people probably did that. But I don't know. People get so butthurt about losing their stuff that I just don't know that any referee would just be like just okay with that necessarily. I don't know. Let's see. Matt says, I feel like the concept of the world living outside of what the characters see or experience is normal, not some mind-blowing revelation. Shouldn't factions be doing things dungeons refilling? Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Let's see.
They don't exist in a vacuum.
No, they don't.
They don't. Yep. That's kind of like the general assumption I've noticed is a lot of people intend to play their games in such a way that the player characters are the focal point of everything that's happening in the world. And that's kind of the thing where OSR stuff tries to flip it on its head, at least some OSR stuff tries to flip it on its head and make it where it's, you know, more about the world and the players are just, you know, living in it basically. And so that's, I mean, yeah, it's definitely not some mind-blowing revelation. If you look in Temple of Elemental Evil, you'll see in there that Gygax had this method for restocking the dungeon as they're clearing it, because, you know, they're not just going to be gone in perpetuity. If you like kill a few things and then leave and don't come back for a month and you come back again, it's not going to be the same dungeon. It's going to be different. You know, the way that the modules are written is how they are whenever you first walk in. And after that, who knows? Like, almost all of my dungeons have been transforming after they started, you know, being messed with pretty dramatically in some cases, especially when you got some funky magic users involved. See, now I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, that's all good, man.
Let's see. Bromos says, has anyone played a game where the players get powerful enough to become tyrants of the realm? How would you deal with that? I don't know what you mean by deal with that. So, I mean, no, I haven't had that happen. I don't know about y'all.
Well, like, what do you mean by...
I keep angling for it and not quite getting there.
Yeah, that's like, a desired outcome, honestly. Because
well, here's the problem. What do you mean? What do you mean by tyrant? Because there's two definitions of the word tyrant. Do you mean like a cruel leader, or do you mean someone who, like, because in the ancient world of Greece, a tyrant meant someone who got into office illegitimately, like they weren't chosen by the gods or as a successor to a king. They just kind of took
definition. I'm not being judgmental here. I just, you know, I always make the powers that be a little incompetent and corrupt.
Right.
You know? So you have the players.
Right. Yeah. They just kind of swoop in, take the territory, and just kind of run things.
Well, just like, okay, you know, it seems like everyone would be better off if you were in charge.
I mean, like look at medieval England. King Henry the Sixth was absolutely off his rocker, insane, and suffered bouts of fugue states where he would just shut off for months at a time, leaving the country in charge of incompetent and self-interested nobles. Like, is it any wonder that Richard the Richard of Duke of York swooped in and tried to take the crown? No, everyone loved him for it because he actually got shit done. You know, so.
Well, basically, what I was gonna say is, I wouldn't it wouldn't be a bad thing. That would actually be a desired result for me using either definition. There's if you have a player who is becoming a tyrannical leader, of a realm, then you're giving, basically that player is giving the other players stuff to do, because then they have the opportunity to either ally with them or step in. And to me, that sounds cool as hell. It becomes a contest. They're all going to be fighting for domination of the realm. I think that is the world that I hope to have eventually. Unfortunately, my 1E game is at a very slow pace. It takes a long time to level. I don't know if the players are going to stick around long enough in order to reach those heights because it takes so damn long to level, but I'm hoping that we get there. So I'm being too stubborn to speed it up. So
Lynchpin bringing up them ballista licenses. And only the most competent kings, the good kings would have licenses. Lynch, screw you.
Michael McDonald says, isn't that an actor? He says it's all an illusion. Little effort and fog of war can seem much deeper to the player. If he's talking about, handling the time, I don't know if he might be talking about something else, but yeah, like I said, if you have one party, it really, it doesn't really, it's just a tool. You don't need the tool necessarily, but the tool works for its purpose if you use it. You don't use tools for the wrong things. 1-to-1 time seems to rob campaigns of the ticking clock. I mean, you can keep it if there are any variable PCs. Okay, so that is a solid point. If you are running a plot heavy, campaign where they're trying to do things. Yeah. Well, actually not even necessarily. It wouldn't have to do that. Here's what you would do. Okay. So let's say that you have group A is trying to stop an assassination attempt. All right. So they are in the middle of trying to handle something, and basically what you would do is you would slow down time for them, and then you would try and have extra sessions or something like that, or you would have them try and handle what it is before the other groups go or whatever. You just keep track of what day they're on, basically. And then if they need to catch up, then you would just tell everybody else, okay, y'all need to go on hold for a bit. And, I mean, it should kind of come,
we're still calculating,
kind of natural catchy uppy, because they're all going to need to stop at one point and do stuff. And, you can encourage them to do that. And that's one of the reasons that I've been working on doing some things, basically trying to add incentives for downtime activities that aren't just the aforementioned training or magical research or those kinds of things. Stuff that's a little bit, other things that can be resolved quickly and add depth to the game. So I don't think that it means that they have to fail necessarily. Certainly, this is a lot less complicated if all you do is run games where they just raid dungeons all the time. It's 100% easy if you do it that way. If you have these things where you got ticking clocks, then yeah, I mean, you are going to get some weird stuff, but you'll figure it out. It's fine. Most of this shit I've learned, with RPGs, people sweat about a lot of things. It's probably just going to be fine. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. All right. I got to get going. I have a game
right
now.
Bye, dude.
See you, man.
Good luck, man. Sorry.
Break a leg.
To talk too much. We talked over you too much. I'm sorry. Next time.
Yeah. Next time. Later.
All right. See you, man.
Bye, dude.
Also, very quickly, I just want to mention, someone had talked about like the PCs being tyrants. I didn't get to mention this, but as well, you could have players that like aren't a part of this group regularly. You could have them basically act as like the patrons of the NPC factions.
Absolutely.
So you could have them fight wars with the petty tyrant lords and stuff that have come into power.
Yeah, the whole patron game is another thing that people in the Bro SR talk about a lot. They talk about it. It's 1-to-1 time, patron stuff, etc. Wow.
Actually, it's a good thing that maybe a tyrant of both definitions could do is make an alliance and maybe even a marriage with one of the young lords or ladies of the realm. So that way it's like, hey, if you go to war with me, they have my kid, and they're on my side. Just letting you know, maybe not a good idea. Just
the
saying.
Orcs are on my payroll. What are you gonna do about it?
No, I wouldn't say orcs. I would say probably like a band of elves or something.
Actually, you still get the point. Yeah, making alliances.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Fiore.
Yeah, I was saying, you get the idea though. Just making alliances, the interplay between the different factions. It could develop into some complex relationships.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
The likes of which you just can't get otherwise.
Yeah.
Blaine says, I suppose it is a good excuse to play other PCs or play others' henchmen or other NPC whilst your character is busy training or building or governing or healing. Yeah, so that's whenever those rules about your character, I don't even think he brought that up in the video that he did, is that, your character is supposed to spend 1 to 4 weeks doing training. You're supposed to spend months perhaps doing item creation, magic item creation, years building strongholds, not them themselves, but it's going to take years for that to happen. There's all kinds of pursuits in there that take a long time. And so, I mean, clearly time is passing somehow. If you can't have these, I'm not trying to be like hateful or anything, but the 5e style, we do our entire 45 session campaign and it took 5 days of game time. And we went from 1 to 20. It doesn't really happen. It's not necessarily 1-to-1 time. I use it for downtime healing and stuff, but I never actually do it 1-to-1. Yeah. I agree about keeping time records, but time is one of my little toys as a GM. Lynch says 1-to-1 time trying to siege down a castle. Oh boy, can't wait till the end of the year for the enemy to run out of food.
Wow. They started that. Wow.
That's hilarious.
But I replied to him earlier saying, like, ideally this is the part where like someone playing an NPC faction, comes in and throws a wrench in the works for both the warring parties.
Oh God. I just realized when I run you guys through Frogland, you're gonna have to do sieges.
Your mic is acting goofy again.
Is it?
Yeah. So, like I said, it sounds like it's vibrating.
Yeah, rattling.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard buzzing in my left ear as well. With yeah, it was weird. I think my mic's just getting old. I have to get a new one.
Replace. Eric says, never saw the point of 1-to-1. Are characters frozen or going to be frozen in place for a week? So, not exact. I mean, so in a sense, yes. But more, this is part of the reason why, like I said, I was wanting to develop these other kinds of tools, is because then what I can do is I can have all kinds of, like, let's say that they're all in town for since the last week. Or maybe they're all in town for a month while somebody else is doing 4 weeks of training. Then I can have them roll on these things. And you have been doing this. You have been doing this. You have been doing this. And here are the outcomes. And here's how that affects the game world. And here's what you gained from it. Here's what you lost. So that way you have all these extra components, and time is moving at kind of a fast paced, but at the same time, it's, making the world feel like a lived-in place rather than just, you know, a scene by scene kind of affair. What's up, Aaron?
Hola.
Iran.
A wild Magic the Gathering card makes its appearance.
Wow.
Let's see. Oh, I didn't want to skip this one. Play Chainmail. It is fun. I have been playing battles that are to be historic events in my home campaign to flesh out the events. And once you get the hang of it, it is a solid game. It doesn't look, I mean, at first glance, it doesn't look too terribly complicated. And it looks like I could probably BS my way through the stuff that is complicated. So I think it should be okay.
Yeah, the hardest part about Chainmail is trying to figure out what everything's supposed to be, because it was written by wargamers for wargamers. You know, there's not really like a introductory section into what is wargaming. You know, how do these mechanics work?
Introduction. Get good. Let's see. Iran does not like Chainmail.
No, not really.
Well, for like wargaming purposes, or
I don't do war games, so yeah. I mean, wargamers may love it. It's very possible.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, so I've heard some people say that they use Chainmail for D&D, but
mass battles and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
It's not like there's not alternatives in this day and age.
Yeah. People were, I think people were saying that Bandit's Keep was using Chainmail, but I don't know if they meant that he was using it to handle large scale battles or if he was using it all the time. I don't see why you would, because I mean, you got BX, you got AD&D.
Yeah, he's got OD&D, AD&D, and BX. I don't see why he would need Chainmail at that point.
Yeah, unless you're handling large scale conflict. A lot of people also
mass combat,
out that Rules Cyclopedia, aka Beckham, has quite substantial, not substantial, quite good from what they say, mass combat rules that are worth using, that may be a little bit more I don't know, appetizing. Especially because
you could also use a battle system. There was another one, I think it was like War Machine or something like that, if I remember correctly. I don't know.
I don't know. I heard battle
War
system
Machine
was complicated as hell. So, and then there's Swords and Spells, which I heard is also incredibly complicated.
There's also the rules from Axe for like doing military campaigns.
Yeah.
Incompetent kings with their ballista licenses.
Yeah, I already brought that up earlier. Competent, smart, and well-adjusted kings license their ballistas, sir. The incompetent ones don't.
It's weird putting somebody's quote when they're in the...
I wrote that a while ago. I'm not going to do much chatting while I'm here.
It's all good, man.
Reminder to check the stream lobby. I know how to do my job. Linchpin.
I think he was talking about for other people if they want to join in.
Well,
yeah.
Me in. I mean, he was watching.
Yeah. So as soon as that pops up.
I told Lynch to jump in if he wanted to get in on the chat. I told him. Didn't listen.
Absolutely.
I think he's made his choice.
That's fair.
Just scanning. Linchpin calling us names.
Yeah. Well, you know.
We do a little heckling.
He's Irish. That's part of the culture. What do you expect?
What kind of bribe or tribute would it be acceptable for an adult black dragon to keep it passive or content not to attack the party, as in starting negotiations?
10 cows.
Nah, that's something a white dragon would ask for.
What, tribute or bribes?
Yeah, I would say like the forest outside of a kingdom. Just give it. It would ask for the entire territory.
Yeah, you'd want the swamp.
Yeah, well, not just the swamp. It probably would want the forest around it as a hunting ground. Maybe a cavern or two to nest in.
I mean, if this is specifically a party encounter, then I mean, if you're depending on what your party just looks like a bunch of plebes, maybe all you have to do is lie and prostrate in front of it and keep to to suit its ego. But if you look like you can give it something, then you're going to have to give it something.
Yeah, it's true. Well, white dragons kind of are a little bit.
Okay, yeah, you can play some dragons as stupid too. That's possible.
Yeah, really, that's true.
But he's saying an adult black dragon. So.
Oh yeah, then yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'd say it would probably be like a 50-50 toss up on placating the dragon's ego and it just eating you outright. So it all depends on its mood.
All right. So Frog Knight Games has declared war.
Well, good.
I'm sorry to say it. He's declared.
What did he do?
So he said the way that Aaron is describing 1-to-1 time doesn't sound at all like 1-to-1 time. So,
oh no! Oh boy!
My comment there yet, where I said that your solution to 1-to-1 time was ignoring 1-to-1 time.
It's not though. Okay, so we're gonna have to do this. All right, so it's actually not as deep in here as I thought it was. For some reason, I thought it was deeper in here. Okay, so here,
giggity.
This is written in high Gygaxian. So like you have to break it down and you have to try and understand what the hell is he trying to say. All right. So let us assume that you begin your campaign on day 1 of year 1000. There are 4 player characters who begin initially, and they have adventures which last a total of 50 days. 6 days of actual adventuring and 44 days of resting and other activity. Okay, so we got 6 days of actual adventuring, 44 days of resting. At this point in time, 2 new players join the game. One of the original group decides to go to seek the advice of an oracle after hiring an elven henchman, and the remaining 3 old boys decide they will not go with the newcomers. So now you got is that 2 groups or is that 3? I think he turns them into 2. I'm pretty sure. So on day 51, player A's character is off on a journey. Those of B, C, and D are resting on their laurels. E and F enter the dungeon. Okay, so we got the group of 2. We got the 1. Okay, so we did split it off into 3. Okay. The latter pair spend the better part of the day surviving, but do well enough to rest a couple of game days and return for another try on day 54. So as you can see, really, the big thing here is he's just keeping track of the days and bouncing between these different groups playing. Where they stumble upon the worst monster of the first level, surprise it, manage to slay it, come out with a handsome treasure, pack it in for the night 4 actual days later, and it is best to use 1 actual day equals 1 game day when no play is happening. So that's one thing, when no play is happening. On day 55, and this is not like real life calendar day 55, this is, game day 55. Player characters B, C, and D enter the dungeon and find that the area they selected has already been cleaned out by player characters E and F. Had they come the day after the previous game session, game day 52, and done the same thing, they would have found the monster and possibly gotten the goodies. Okay. I guess I might as well just read the whole thing before we break it down. What to do about that, and what about old A and his pointy-eared chum off to see the oracle? That's a slur. How dare he? Some penalty must accrue to the non-active, but on the other hand, the overactive cannot be given the world on a silver platter. Despite time differences, the activities of the newcomers to the campaign should be allowed to stand, as destiny has decreed that the monster in question could not fall to the characters B, C, and D. So this basically what he's saying is that even though they were ahead in time and they killed this thing, the group that played next, they weren't that far in yet. But even if they were able to go back, even if they were able to go there and kill the thing first, he would have just said it's not there right now. So he's basically saying it's like you're really just tracking the days, and you're just kind of making sure that time passes more than anything else. And basically, if no play is happening at all, then you just move the time along. for everybody. Does that seem wrong? Did I lose y'all?
Did you say that? I mean, it's essentially a tool to maintain continuity between multiple groups.
Right.
I mean, that's perfectly fine. I don't even have a problem with that.
Let's see. I guess I might as well keep going. Okay. Where were we? Therefore, the creature was obviously elsewhere, not dead, when they visited its lair on day 52, but it had returned on day 56. Being aware of time differences between groups of player characters will enable you to prevent the big problems. You will know when the adventuring of one such group has gone far enough ahead in game time to call a halt. This is particularly true with regard to town/dungeon adventures. So, I mean, the mere fact that he has such a thing as a halt, is basically what I'm talking about when I say that you would just stop playing with this group of PCs for a bit because like they're way ahead or something like that, and the others need to catch up. That's what we're looking at. This is particularly true with we already did that. Returning to player character A in his trek to visit a far-off source of supernatural lore, he and his elven companion set off on day 51, journey across the land for 11 days. So, I mean, you would be thinking, hey, that means you can't play for seven a week and 4 days, right? Visit the Oracle and remain 3 days. Just to be clear, no on that. Visit the Oracle and remain for 3 days and come back in another 11 days. This comes for a total of 25 days all told, counting day 51. So they come home on day 75 and are set to adventure on day 77. Let us suppose as a brief rest is in order, allowing that activity to not be unusual for a single session of play. Then player character A and his henchmen are ready to play about the same actual time as the other players. Only A is at day 77. B, C, and D are at day 54. And E and F are at day 58. So as you can see, they're all over the place. They're not even close. They're kind of close. So, but at that point, you have to let the day 54 group go, and then you let the day 58 group go until they catch up to the day 77 group, and then everybody's about the same point. And if for some reason nobody's playing for a while, then a daytime, one real day equals one game day. That's my understanding. I don't know. Maybe y'all have another understanding. It continues. I mean, y'all are more than welcome to read that too. So that's page 37 and then 38 is where that is. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. It's just complicated because his example, it's Gygax. I mean, he can't help himself.
He's a bit dense. I agree.
He can't help himself but to just make things incredibly complicated when he tries to explain them. Like, I don't know if that's a personality quirk or if he was just like thinking this is the threshold I wish everyone to be able to go through in order to be good enough for my game.
I think it's more of a matter of his personality.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he was pretty much just like, I'm going to get this damn thing done because I said I would, and I need to make some money.
I think he was just writing a book.
Yeah.
I'm going to jet, guys. Bye.
All right.
See ya.
We'll see it. We'll see ya.
But yeah, that expanded my understanding a bit because I was under the impression that one-to-one time was basically, doing it with no pauses. Yeah. I mean, that was my understanding too. Whenever people had explained it to me, but it wasn't until I actually read it myself and I was like, oh, and then I had to sit there and because he's using the way that he's using the three different groups in different days, it gets confusing, but yeah, that's kind of how I understand it. I mean, really the gist of it is just you just need to have a way of keeping them roughly around the same time period so it doesn't get too weird, especially if they're playing in the same vicinity, and which, I mean, they should be playing roughly in the same vicinity. That way they can have impacts on each other. If they're all playing on exact different
if I'm playing in Antarctica, you're playing in, fucking Colombia, and somebody else is playing in France, then like we're never going to really meet, so it doesn't really matter unless we blow up half of the planet or something. So I don't know, did you have any thoughts about bribing or paying tribute to a black dragon, Iran?
I was just talking about, like, depending on the player level, it really depends. In that case, that's where I was at. And I think I already really gave my opinion on it. I don't want to rehash.
Oh, Cal says you're at its mercy if it's an adult dragon. I mean, pretty much. It's just kind of like, fuck you guys.
Yeah, unless you've got like a team of people ready for the sole intent of killing it, you're screwed.
Yep. Dolly Pop says, someone argued a point with my mans. They have chosen death. There's a reason she's still alive. I'm kidding. Okay.
Well, speaking of that, DK might die if we actually get Hyperbole on the road here.
Oh, yeah, he might. Lynch is right. I do respect a dissenting opinion. Absolutely. I always choose death and am always denied. There is some greater purpose for you yet than Iran. Cal says, considering a dragon adult, it would know it could gain things by being merciful at first, but also gain the enmity of a group by using them, assuming some intelligence. John says, so they couldn't undo what the first group did, even though they got there before them. In game time, I guess it was carrying its treasure with them. Yeah, that was one thing that I thought of is, like if there's a treasure hoard, then why didn't they just come upon? And ultimately it's because magic. we have to make it work, because otherwise it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, then that sucks for the people that found it. Whatever. No, I mean, if you were a dick, you could be like, oh my gosh, y'all get there, and y'all have been traveling for a week, and your treasure all of a sudden it turns into just copper. It's all copper. What in the world is this? It wasn't the real treasure, and that wasn't even the real bad guy. I don't know.
You got the fake ending.
He got the fake ending. Oh man. Let's see. Sounds like a running multiple groups issue I'm too lazy to understand. Yield Geek says Gygax didn't play using his AD&D rules. He ran some OD&D 1E house rule mismatch. That is the Chad way to play, in my personal opinion. Okay, so Doof, it was on page 37. And again, it's like it's in one sentence in like a parentheses, just saying, and when you should use real, one game time is one real time when no play is happening. That's it's not like it's some big bold letters and anything like that. He probably was just that's the thing that's really funny. It's just a little throwaway comment by him. Just like, hey, here's a good way to track it right here is you could just one real game day. And then these people are like, behold the great ratio. Oh my God. I'm so glad.
I gotta figure out where these guys hang out. I would laugh all the time.
I'm gonna have to see if I can get the Bro SR people on here sometime for the lulz. I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would do like a stream. I don't know, because they do play reports, but I don't know. A pseudo.
I mean, you've got connections in terms of having Astro Creativity on your server. Maybe you can use him to leverage some other people.
Mayhaps. I mean, we're not in, like, I would say, any kind. There's no animosity that I'm aware of. Some of them have called me low T and shit like that because I had pronouns in my bio on Twitter.
Right, but I think that was just more they were trying to bust your balls.
That's how they are. They like to bust people's balls. So, they're going to insult each other and everybody else. That's just how they do. And it turns some people off, but it's fine. My thing is whenever they have really stupid takes every now and then, I'm just like, oh God, it's really just, as people have been saying, it's a way to play. Is it the way to play? Maybe it's the way to play in AD&D first edition, because it's how it's written in the book, and that's how they do things. That's an interesting thing. Arnman says Gygax worshippers wear only one sandal as per Life of Brian. If y'all have never seen that, it's great. It's kind of like a demonstration of how the I don't want to ruin it. Y'all should just watch Life of Brian, I guess, if you're not familiar. But I've already started.
So I just wanted to say, how low T do you have to be to blindly follow someone else's way of doing things, not blaze your own trail?
Yeah. That's pretty true. That's pretty true. One of the points that they make, and I often I see some merit to, is that there is value in this kind of play. This kind being the kind that takes a lot of these things into consideration. Especially whenever you're like me, and well, I'm sure there are a lot of people that have also been in a similar situation, who they've experienced people constantly hand waving everything, just giving things to the players all the time, just trying to sate them and, focusing entirely on the player characters and making them everything, making them the heroes in a way that they didn't exactly earn. And that's the thing. I want to earn that stuff,
Yeah, that was part of my issue with playing new school stuff. It just felt very phony. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah. Oh damn! I got distracted. I was reading Frog Knight Games' comment. Since he is my ultimate nemesis now because he called me out on my bullshit. Nah, I'm kidding. He says that he had to deal with kids, so he's 8 minutes behind. He said that's not what he has heard used for that term 1-to-1. That's just normal playing. Ish, kind of ish. Yeah. The whole point of it is that you try to have some means of order with it rather than just kind of going willy-nilly. And I think a lot of it is really that a lot of people will reject anything that involves that in a lot of ways that I've seen. How many people do y'all know actually use training rules?
I haven't played AD&D yet, so the answer is none.
Whenever I talk to a lot of my, Aaron, you play, second edition is your baby.
No, that's where I became. That's where I was a baby. That was my first game.
Okay, well, so I guess that's a meaningful clarification. Yes, but did you ever use training rules? I know it was optional in second edition, wasn't it?
I've used them in the past, but I've never been totally. They've never been consistent. We've had points where we've hand waved them, depending. Like if there's something big going on in the game, like way back when, this is 20 years ago, I'm thinking about, if there was something big going on in the game, the referee would just hand wave and say, I know you're supposed to go train right now, but we've got a big thing coming up, so we're just gonna skip ahead. And
you're gonna do a Rocky montage.
Yeah, and that's the thing, kind of thing that you run into from time to time as well. Like for instance, in my first edition game, the thief, he's been ready to level for a while, but he hasn't had time, and that's gonna really suck. It would really suck if he was sitting there ready to work his way to level 2, and then actually almost ready to work his way to level 3, and then he gets kicked in the pants to death, and he's unable to ever get there just because he only had one hit die and he just kicked it. That 1D, was it 1D4? Is it 1D4, 1D6? I feel like it's one. I can't remember. I think it's 1D4. Anyway, it only goes so far. Let's see. But yeah, that's just kind of part of it. There are a lot of people in the chat saying that they use training rules. a lot of the people that I have talked to that played AD&D said that they hated them and they threw them out first thing whenever they saw them, or they just didn't even notice that they were there because they didn't. I guess they didn't read that part.
No, the first thing everybody threw out for AD&D second edition was racial requirements. The second thing was level restrictions. And then we moved on from there.
Okay. Yeah. Justin says, besides the training rules, it would also include the carousing and crafting rules as well. I don't remember carousing rules. Huh. I mean, if you consider the monthly expenditures carousing rules, because that's kind of the thing you assume that's what they're spending all that gold on. But the crafting rules definitely. Let's see. Trying to break out of the new school main character syndrome. Yeah, that's the thing that I was trying to kind of get to, is with all this stuff about hand waving in order to basically deal to the players what they're looking for, while also maintaining the integrity of the campaign and all this kind of stuff. Like, I just personally, whenever I play in games, I get kind of fed up with it whenever I'm the player. And I just feel like I don't really buy into the world or anything, and because we're constantly having things handed to us, and I don't want to be main character of an epic story novel, thing, is repetitive as that is, redundant. It's not what I want to do whenever I play D&D. If I'm going to do something like that, maybe I'll play 13th Age. If I want to be main character syndrome, I'll play 13th Age. Let's see. Blaine says, everything is for your consideration. This is what we used in our games and might work in yours or not. Oh, here he is.
something barracks room lawyer, something spirit of the rules. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on which Gygax section you're reading, because in 0th edition, he's all like, like you can use a lot of make your own stuff. It's cool. It's great.
And then he realized that this was oh wait, one moment.
Oh, let's see. You didn't realize that this was the great Bro SR stream? Actually, no, it's not. It's the Questing Beast stream, because he discovered it all of it.
So he thinks.
We gotta wait on him to get back so he can give us his take. For those who aren't aware, that is Ash of Creativity, who is friends of the Bro SR, and thus he is going to be here to defend their righteous honor. So, James, what I was telling everybody is that Questing Beast discovered 1-to-1 time. Praise be.
Oh, discovered it.
Yeah. He, it's really second to actually creating it himself. Yeah, he discovered it.
Oh, it's very difficult to read Jeffro's Twitter. It's very difficult to read the Bro SR Twitter, as I am constantly informed. I've never actually experienced this difficulty myself, but...
Well, so here's the thing. It's very easy for me to accept that somebody that Questing Beast, for instance, may have blocked Jeffro forever ago, because Jeffro is a very blockable individual.
Yes, he is.
And
natural consequence of being so talented.
Even outside of that, I mean, I don't know how big the sphere of influence is. I don't know. I mean, it's probably bigger than mine. But published author.
I'll tell you how big it is. Anytime Jeffro starts talking about, discovers some things in the writings of Gygax, it makes its way to the mainstream OSR about a year later, 6 months to a year later. Patron play, 1-to-1 time, chainmail and mass combat focus on domain play and actual exploration. These things make their way over. Back when the spell research rules, spell research and randomized known spells from level to level these things also made their way in, and
you got to be shitting me.
Many such cases.
Did people just not read the damn thing?
No, people do not. People are insistent on treating Gygax, who was probably the last designer to actually have touched D&D, with the exception of 4th edition, which is a separate rule set unto itself. People just assume that he didn't know what he was talking about, or they take the one-off quotes like, I don't know, something
like
about
the afterword,
something rule 0.
Yeah,
an entire book of declarative statements, and you must do this to produce this result. You must engage in strict timekeeping to have a meaningful campaign. That Gygax doesn't matter to these people. He didn't really say that. Everything else, on the other hand, But if you find that some random quote about how the DM is actually God is, I don't know. It's also tiresome.
I knew that you'd probably have fun with this topic. Let's see.
It's a shame we didn't get the big slap fight that we could have gotten earlier.
Yeah, that's true. At this point, I'm kind of getting worn out. It's a hour and a half, and like I said, I'm on keto now, so I'm just like.
What was the big slap fight that we were expecting?
DK was on earlier. If you had come on earlier, it might have ended up with the slap fight.
Oh, shame. No, DK and I have been having wonderfully productive conversations over voice chat.
K5K says, dying before having the chance to train is a possibility. It's the worst. If you can train. Yeah, that's one of the things that I didn't want to tell him. Basically, what happened is the thief had enough XP to level up, and he would have found a way to get the training from somebody that owes him a favor, basically, if he wanted to. So really, he didn't need to worry that much about the money either. And that being the case, all he would have to do is whenever they got back to town and he had that XP, he would just have to, I'm going to ask around, see if I can find a thief trainer. Oh, found this guy, he owes you a favor. Okay, sure. There you go. You're going to be training, and then roll up a new PC. That PC goes with the party from this point until enough time has passed that the training is done. And then, that kind of thing. That's all we really had to do. So yeah, if you can train, then train. Having enough money and time is just the hard part. The XP comes easy. Okay. Damn. Praxis Taliogaro says, I have 19 players in my current campaign. Training rules are a must. The way I've heard, Frog Knight says, the way I've heard 1-to-1 is that the game world lines up with real time, so time away from table equals time in game. I don't like Gygax's explanation of time as a complicated, a simple wargaming concept. Time away.
It's a role-playing concept. Time progresses inside the game when it.
Oh, he's been smoked.
Yeah, the WotC police got him.
Whoopsie.
I don't think they would go after. Okay, here he comes. He's coming on a separate thing. Devices not connected. He's having tech issues. Okay.
I can see how this would work. What Frog Knight says, but it wouldn't work with multiple people.
There we go.
But multiple groups as well.
Welcome back.
I don't know what happened. All right, what did we say? What happened? Locked out for a minute there.
I think you cut out when Aaron was reading Frog Knight Games' comic right there.
Yeah.
No, I was saying it's a role-playing concept. It's not a wargaming concept. It's a role-playing concept. Time progresses outside of the game, therefore, time also progresses inside the game. That's basically what it is. Day in real life passes, a day inside the game passes. Congratulations.
I don't know that okay, yeah, it's just,
very useful game mechanic, very useful for role playing, and if you're trying to generate a campaign that can support many different players and also many different characters between said players, one-to-one time is a fantastic means of incentivizing that. Also, really, really enforces the idea that you can lose in a tabletop role-playing game. If you go through a session, and you only clear out like 2 rooms because you decided you weren't going to cast any spells, you weren't going to use any abilities, you weren't going to use any of your consumable items or anything, and you were just going to take the least important method, or if you were going to hold as much as you possibly could in reserve, all to clear out 3 rooms in a single night. Congratulations, you're now losing the game because other people are going to jump in. They're going to try to clear out 15 rooms in a given night. They're going to try to win 2 battles in a given night. They're going to try to find more loot in a given night, and those people will be winning the game. And thus, they're going to have more access to the DM. They're going to have more exciting campaign. They're going to have more exciting sessions. And that's more or less one-to-one really creates a seemingly arbitrary, but in fact very important standard for who is winning and losing the game. All of a sudden, how much you do in a given night actually does matter.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Let's see. Carousing rules. People are saying that they didn't use them or they may have missed them. Yeah, he hasn't come in here to say where he got that from. James, I didn't see anything about carousing rules in the DMG. I know that there's
I'll see if I can find that because I'm redoing the Chilmas Valley rules for carousing, and I might as well steal from the greats while I'm doing it, right?
Yeah, there's the money that's spent every month, and that's pretty easy to miss because it's just a little note here, and that kind of assumes that the player characters are spending, they're carousing. So there's the suggestion there, but I don't remember anything like actually saying what is the outcome of this carousing. How do you adjudicate that and all that kind of stuff. I don't remember that being there.
I'm looking at the index.
You can get diseases and there's hookers, but
which are very important.
Yes. You need to know if you're with an expensive doxy or a wanton wench.
Okay.
I can't seem to find it in the index. Carousing. Maybe it's in UA. Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Maybe. I haven't read Unearthed Arcana, so I'll get there at some point. Frog Knight says, yes, that is an RPG concept. I hate that. What Gygax explained poorly is a wargaming concept of variable turn length.
It could also just exist independently in tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah. So, the whole thing about one-to-one. So whenever I'm reading, the section about that. This is one of the things that we went over before you got here. It doesn't seem like it's bound to the intense, strict regiment that it kind of sounds like because of the way that he describes it. It sounds like it's more, this group is too far ahead. We need to hold them back. We need to catch this group up in days that have transpired and get them all roughly around the same area is what's in there. Obviously it does say one game or one real day equals one game day when no play is happening,
which is what it actually means.
Yeah, it actually expanded my understanding of how one-to-one time works, because I was assuming it was kind of like what a thinks it is, where there's no like stopping to catch everyone up.
Well, I mean, but it kind of is, because he says that you need to, at some point, you need to call a halt on one of the groups, and then you go back to the other group, and then they play for a while until they get caught up, because they're on day 52 and the other group's on day 77, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was saying that I didn't realize that until now, because what I understood of a one-to-one time was that there was no like ability to call halts.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it's such a useful game mechanic. It's such a useful game mechanic. You can have, because you can support more players and more characters at your table.
That's the whole thing, is whenever they kind of go on their whole thing about how it is the true way to play and all that kind of stuff.
Because it is.
I mean, it's a true way to play that way. It's kind of like
it's how the game was designed to work with this. And
okay, I'm not going to argue that.
Affected by virtual, whether or not you do or don't do it. It's definitely the true way to play the game. If you're doing some corruption or some spin-off of AD&D, then it's
corruption.
That's not
degenerate play.
Degenerate play.
Tunnels and troglodytes.
Tunnels and troglodytes.
For those that are
other Tunnels game.
Dusted with Cheeto, they're Cheeto dusted, and they got their shit buckets and
basements and bullywugs.
Oh man, let's see. Carl's in the chat. Good to see him. Time passing outside of gameplay is very much needed. I wouldn't stop mid-adventure and advance time. But after it was over, the next one would start later on at a time to match the time passed. I think that's kind of what we're getting at.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what other people were saying too, was some variation of that.
I really like the idea though that dungeon delves do take actual time, like outside of game. Like it takes that tells you something about what a dungeon is. Like if a dungeon delve is a week, then dungeon.
Oh damn!
Oh, you fell down.
That is not me, y'all. I swear. CBK Ply says I have always naturally ran my. Oh, go ahead.
Said it's me. I'm doing it. Sorry.
Ah, damn you! You're using those manas and the spell cards, and
you're countering him.
I'm trying to use what little Magic the Gathering stuff I know. I don't know if you play MTG. I just do that because of the card.
There he is.
I don't know why it keeps happening. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm telling you, the WotC police are trying to shut you down. They're trying to not let the truth get out.
Indeed.
We need to have a debate between you and Frog Knight.
Yeah. See, this is just stupid.
No, but that's I don't see how it would ruin games. I mean, kind of what I've been saying,
because people get offended at Jeffro, and so now we have to go after Jeffro. We have a bone to pick with Jeffro, and now we must condemn anything that he talks about because he's upset us.
He says he needs to fight you in single combat. But I guess I'll put the names back on. Let me see. They're not going to show while I have a comment visible. But Appendix N Terrorist, aka Ash of Creativity, for those who don't know. But let's see. And I don't think it ruins it. I don't really think. I don't know that it's. So I'm not using it inherently with my first edition game right now. But like I told you about, James, the reason for that is because each group plays every other week, basically, because I only have like one time slot per week in order to do that. For me, I feel like but I did do it with my public game, which was multiple games per week with multiple groups, and to me that's when that's needed. Otherwise, I feel like the important thing is you need to make sure that time is passing, really.
I mean, if you're not running with potential for multiple groups, like if you only have a time slot, for, I guess, one group every 2 weeks or once a month. In some ways, that already is like a different purpose than what the AD&D rule set is intended for.
Right.
So at that point, I mean, changing the time rules to meet that specific need I don't see that as being a problem, except insofar as, gosh, wouldn't it be so much nicer if we could if you had access to more people? I mean, like your public game.
Yeah, I mean, I have the access to the people. I just don't have the time.
Yeah,
yeah, because I do that game on Monday nights. On Tuesday nights, I often do streams. On Wednesday nights, I have a game with my local group. On Thursday nights, I have a game with my local group. Friday nights, I often get my kids. So then I play Lion and Dragon on Sundays.
What can you do?
Yeah.
Well, at that point, maybe what you could do is you could have multiple DMs.
Yeah. I mean, that's true, and that's what we did. That's what we did with the public game, and that worked. That worked well. It's just you got to coordinate and all that kind of stuff, and
it's a lot easier to coordinate with one-to-one time.
It is.
You really do have like a set, like, all right, these people are here at these points in time.
Yeah, it works. It do work. Let's see. So yeah, Hank was saying, like I was saying before, there's 100 GP per month per level because of carousing. I think that rule sucks ass, and here's why. Basically, it's there. It consumes your character's money, but you don't get anything for it. It's like, to me, it's like, okay, if that was just pure living expense, fine. That's fine, because there's no way you can get around needing to live. But whenever we're talking about let's use a cleric. Whenever you're talking about a cleric, they're going to have their own things that they're going to put, maybe tithes and whatnot. They're going to put all this money into the church or whatever. You could say that that's where the money goes, I guess, but I don't know, this very arbitrary thing there. To me, I'd rather just expand on it and be like, these are actual benefits that you get from this kind of thing. Here's what you can spend money and time on, and you can have actual outcomes churn out of it. That's, the 100 GP per month per level is just really simplistic. And carousing isn't for all the classes. Carousing is not something that I would see a paladin doing. I really wouldn't see a paladin doing that.
Well, they should be spending money in tithing then.
Right. I mean, yeah, but that's calculated separately. They got to do that elsewhere. So I mean, you wouldn't put that on top of it. What about a druid? Is a druid gonna be carousing? I don't know. I guess the real answer is that you just don't allow subclasses, and then you're good. I'm kidding.
Counterpoint.
I don't know, James. How do you feel about the monk? Since
how do I feel about the monk? It's very
like
important for some people to be punished by virtue of the character that they're playing.
The monk is a punishment.
Yes. No, it's important that you occasionally have a silly class for the sake of variety, and if your group happens to get a really nice haul, to level them up several times by virtue of and gain access to some other cool mechanic. Now, I like classes who have to set their own win conditions, like with the monk not playing. Sorry, I have too much material on this. I like having the monk.
Camp Kill Commentary says DMG calls all rules optional. For the record, you're playing D&D correctly if the table is loving it.
I've never heard this before.
I don't think that it does say that all rules are optional.
I've never heard that D&D is all just fun, and whatever D&D is whatever you make of it. Like chess. Chess is whatever you make of it. It's not about whether certain rules impose certain modes of play and influence player behavior and how people treat each other at the table and what events can be produced. never heard this before. No. So even if all of these rules are technically optional insofar as Gary Gygax does not break down your door and shoot you for disobeying them, you're still a fucking idiot for disobeying them. We have a unique lack of lose conditions in these games because they're not obvious to stupid people. That's the problem here. They're not obvious to stupid people, but you can still engage in degenerate play where you're not taking advantage of the conceits of the medium. You're not taking advantage of all the things that you could be doing at your table with your friends, and all that it has to offer. But you could still keep playing, is the weird thing. In video games, you can't really do that. Like in Halo, you're going to shoot people. One friend of my group does not get to say, well, we're no longer shooting people in Halo. We're no longer shooting people. You don't get to do that because that one friend doesn't have access to there's a higher barrier of entry to the actual rules. Right? And whether or not you can change them. But we don't have that barrier to entry in tabletop role-playing games. And so we have to suffer this sort of nonsense.
Well, so he's saying he's looking for the page. I mean, I feel like the afterword is really like the only. I think it's the only thing that's in the DMG that really kind of points toward anything like that.
The only thing outside of the declarative statements, like if you're not using strict timekeeping, you're not running a meaningful campaign. Why don't they point to that?
Right. Well, I mean, so
there's one note in here that says I can do whatever I want, and therefore doing whatever I want is good.
Well, what it says, let's say, where is the old afterword anyway? I imagine it's at the end. There we go. 230. Oh, it has boobies, so I'm gonna try and go above the boobies.
I'm not. Where's my book?
Can't show the boobies.
Well,
here we go.
Too haram for YouTube.
It is too haram for YouTube. Yes. So some people are like, y'all are being really condescending or whatever. It's like, correction. He is being really condescending.
Well, he's also being anti-thought, which is interesting to have that position.
And it feels worse, probably because I have the voice of your dad. You shouldn't take it too personally.
So here we go. Because I've argued with Jeffro about this before, and we both accused each other of not knowing how to read. It is the spirit of the game, not the letter of the rules, which is important. Never hold to the letter written, nor allow some barracks room lawyer to force quotations from the rule book upon you if it goes against the obvious intent of the game. So that's the. So a lot of people are like, never hold to the letter written, but if it goes against the obvious intent of the game. So, well, what is the obvious intent of the game? Well, we can think about that for a minute. As you hew the line with respect...
he spells it out in a few lines.
As you hew the line with respect to conformity to major systems and uniformity of play in general. So he's talking about hewing the line, uniformity of play in general. So kind of like playing in the same rough way that everybody else is playing. Uniformity. Also, be certain the game is mastered by you and not by your players. So, I mean, this is kind of, so, I mean, he's saying, the letter written, barracks room rule lawyer. So, I mean, it sounds like that's probably going to be your players. That he's saying, like, don't let your players run you over. Within the broad parameters given in the AD&D volumes, you are creator. And so within the broad parameters. So that is very specific. That says that you have to work within the parameters given in the volumes, in the books
of the actual game.
Right. So, I mean, it's really not a rule zero. You are a creator and final arbiter by ordering things as they should be, the game as a whole first. So, I mean, that goes first.
The game as a whole first.
Yeah. Your campaign next. So you got to fit within those things. with your campaign, and then the participants thereafter. You'll be playing it as it was meant to be. So yeah, I mean that tends to, like, if depending on where you place the emphasis, you can get wildly different. Because like I said, I argued with Jeffro about it, and then it was kind of funny because like I don't know, like maybe a year later, I had to say, yeah, you were right.
It's hard, and here's the thing: like, you can still choose not to obey the rules. You are already only looking at that as an excuse to not obey the rules, right? And like I said, nobody breaks down your door and shoots you for not obeying the rules.
So he says it's cleared up in many splat books. I'd be, you know, so I don't have a dog in this fight necessarily. So James kind of does, because to me, I'm like, yeah, y'all heard me before. I'm like, yeah, I'm not using 1-to-1 exactly. I'm not playing exactly as Gygax intended, and I'm okay accepting that.
No.
But you know, so I don't really have a dog in that fight, but so I'm curious, you know, regardless, just because I'm a curious person, like what exactly it is that you're referencing that have these clearing up, because I'm wondering, was it actually written by him, you know, or was it written by other people,
or was it Gygax changing his mind? Gygax was far more oriented towards new school play towards the end of his life.
That is true. The book tells you.
I don't necessarily think I'm a new schooler, and I don't necessarily think that Gygax was correct about his own evaluation of his prior work. I mean, you mentioned earlier, Gygax from basic to AD&D is different.
Yeah. From
pointing out like, oh well, he says this other thing and this other time, it's like, all right, well, here's a forum where he says you should either have a lot of classes or no classes at all. That has no bearing on how I think AD&D should be run.
Or the secret is that they don't need rules. That quote. Well, he says I'm running an 18-year long campain. Nobody's saying that you can't run. You can't make a campaign work.
I don't.
You know. I don't.
This is the dick swinging that people get into on whenever you start talking about tabletop role playing games, right? I'll mention something like 5th edition is 1 to 7th level or 1 to 12th level game, based on what it's actually meant to support and what it has access to in the rules and how long it can sustain a campaign, right? And then somebody will come and say, well, only if you're a bad DM. Only if you're a bad player.
Yes.
I've been running a campaign for 27 levels since yesterday. You just need to reach my level of DMing. And it's people trying to knock down objective discussion of rule systems and how they interplay with people at the table to score points on the internet, if you can imagine.
Yeah, so I actually very rarely write blog articles, but one of them was basically where I was just sick of those kinds of damn, what do they call it? Starts with a P.
Penis.
not penis. Not penis. Damn. Whenever you say platitudes, you know, those kinds of platitudes, you know, there's no wrong way to play. It's always right if you have fun, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it just, at the end of the day, it just ends up not really being a useful comment. And it just kind of shuts down any kind of discussion about how to try and make, how to enhance your outcomes. You know, for me, I'm not like trying to say that, I'm not saying there is like the way to play. There's the supreme, you know, best 100% ultra turbo, you know, style. But, you know, I will say that there are certain tools that you can use in order to get a better outcome with this than that thing, you know. Basically that system matters more or less.
I mean, all of these rules that we discussed earlier, you have a once per month or twice per month game. and that's already deviating from what the AD&D rule set is really intended for. So we're using these from a holistic, or we're evaluating them from a holistic perspective for what is the point of this game? What is it trying to emulate? What is it trying to support? And how good are these specific rules at doing that? And how important is it that these rules are maintained in order to generate those situations and those scenarios that the game is meant to produce, right? And then we can evaluate those on a piece by piece basis. And like I said, like I'm a new schooler. My favorite games are 4th edition and Lancer. So this is not the dog I have in this fight is simply evaluating whether or not it is playing AD&D and whether AD&D exists aside from these rules or the things that these rules are meant to produce to begin with as a softer line, you know?
This is an interesting comment. Saying all rules are optional is also a cover your ass. Well, okay. So this is a very cynical comment, in my opinion. Saying all rules are optional is also a cover your ass excuse bad game designers put in their games so that they can ignore feedback on broken mechanics. Now, there is a legitimate complaint to be made about people that make games that are not very well play tested. And, you know, they probably would cover their asses with statements like this. I don't doubt it, because there are a lot of people that just write a system, you know, a year, and they just put stuff out and they don't support it and they're done with it and they move on.
A system a weekend?
System a weekend, yeah.
You throw some public domain art on it and sell it for $3?
Yes. Clip art, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to be entirely cynical. I want to say that there probably are some people that genuinely do believe that this is the case, and I'm definitely not as hardline as James is. You know, James is somebody who says don't tinker with the rules because you're just a filthy peasant, and
I mean that's my quote verbatim.
It is. Whereas for me, I give GMs a little bit more credit than he does, I guess I would say. You know, I mean, I tweak things a little bit. But
I mean, I tweak things depending on the rule set. Like when I'm playing 5th edition, I don't play 5th edition as it's whatever. Like everything I've designed for 5th edition was based on the idea that the rule set as designed and as played is miserable and should have never existed. Or that doesn't exist as a real game and only as a concession to legacy players. I think it's absolute dog shit, and you should, if you are torturing yourself by playing it, you should absolutely change it. But
how dare you? As somebody who's currently running 5th edition, I can say that if you use, go ahead.
Said I have no argument with anything the guy on the bottom just said.
Oh. If you use the tools in the Dungeon Master's Guide, including optional rules, you'll actually have a pretty decent game, my fella.
I love some of the optional rules like multi-classing and feats, which are in fact core, despite being described as optional.
No, those are optional. Those are
core to the game. It doesn't matter what they describe.
They're just not good.
But no, it's like I don't like those games. They don't have exploration. They don't have fun social mechanics. They don't have any support out for things outside of combat. And the combat, in my opinion, sucks. Especially once you get beyond 3 players.
You don't like bonus action economy?
I'm okay with bonus actions. It's just you don't really have a lot of things to actually use on them.
Ooh, this is a great comment. CBK Ply says rules are play tested for game balance. Hopefully, if you're playing a good system, yes. When you change one thing, you affect 2 to 3 other rules. That is very, very, very true. I mean, I give you. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, I'm talking a lot. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say that if 2 to 3 other rules depends on how the system's built. There's a lot of systems that are more modular where you won't change much at all when you change this or that thing. Whereas if you're talking like 3rd edition, then yes, there's kind of like systems upon systems that are all intertwined. So
one change can have a cascading effect.
Yeah. One, like I was actually thinking about one just the other day. I was thinking, okay, what if in 5th edition you made it so that if you allow so there is the whole thing about opportunity attacks. What if you allowed that on people being knocked prone? So if you think about that, changes the game entirely, because then what's happening is if you have enough player characters in your party, at least one person is going to be everybody's going to want to be a battle master, or at least somebody. They're going to want to have a battle master so they can knock somebody prone, so that they can circle around the guy and everybody gets a reaction, because there are a lot of character classes that end up not using reactions because they don't really have a need to all the time.
Right. I mean, one of the greatest first level spells is Grease. It's a 1 minute duration, doesn't have concentration. Its primary effect is to knock people prone. And it's very good at doing so. Very good at doing so.
And then it would be used more often.
Yes, yeah, even more often. It's already a great spell. And yeah, just all the effects. Prone is relatively common in the system on account of it not being terribly deadly. Except in certain circumstances, like, because generally the person can just get back up right on the turn, because it only takes half your movement to stand back up. So getting knocked prone isn't too bad, provided they are not surrounded by a ton of melee, a bunch of melee fighters or whatever. In which case they get advantage on attacks and they're going to hit more often, and maybe they're using Great Weapon Master, etc., etc. So if you did change that, then that would have, like I said, that would have a cascading effect.
Yeah. I mean, that's just one example, and there are all kinds of examples where, just one little tweak, it's going to have a big effect. And then it's just a matter of, do you think that that's an acceptable change? Like, is that an acceptable way that, that it would change the way people play? And, your answer might be, yeah. I mean, if people want to, if that's how they want to play from this point on, maybe it's worth it for them. Maybe it's okay to me for them to like suddenly be trying to set themselves up for being able to do that kind of thing. And, that means that they're not going to counterspell me as much because, their reactions are going to be used up. I don't know. Like, it's just.
Yeah. It's going to change the game. It's going to change the way it's played.
Yep. Let's see. Jeremy says, up to the DM, they make a ruling and the table goes with it. Hate rules lawyering, which has become prevalent since D&D 3.0 onwards.
It was before then. It was back in 2nd edition. I remember rules lawyering the shit out of my GM.
I mean,
the stupid 13, 14-year-old kid.
The BMG.
The stupid 13 or 14-year-old kid rules lawyering a 35-year-old GM with a beard. Like, it was glorious. I was such an asshole.
Age doesn't matter when you're right, ultimately, but the DM is the I mean, that's one of those things. Whenever it's described there in the afterword, because if we want to hail Gygax and his holy wisdom, then basically, really the rules lawyering, it might be a matter of interpretation. Maybe I don't know. Maybe
I think most people just really hate hearing that they're doing something wrong.
Yeah. I mean,
including me. I'm not an exception to this. Like, I think just everybody hates hearing that they did something wrong. But in the RPG community, you're uniquely situated to then get back at those people for this perceived horrific slight.
I do things wrong all the time. Whenever I'm running games, I do things wrong all the time. I mean, I'm trying to do better, and I'm fairly certain that even veteran DMs are still going to do stuff wrong every now and then. And
you're juggling a lot.
Yeah, you are juggling a lot. Yeah, and you're going to make miscalculations and stuff like that. It's not really a judgment necessarily to say that something is done wrong. I mean, there are people that are going to say you're a bad GM or whatever. I pretty much. Anytime people bring that up, I'm just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm just not about that. I mean, that's whenever I'm going to say, if your table's having fun, then you're doing a good job. With one exception, fudging. When people fudge, they are degenerates, and I hate them.
They're uniquely terrible at the game. I completely agree.
Fudging is just an inability to realize when you should or shouldn't roll the dice. That's all.
Let's see.
Yeah, one other note on the up to DN thing. There are lots of things that you can include and use as mechanical hooks in a game that probably shouldn't be up to the GM, because the GM will either forget it or they don't have the appropriate space of mind to think about the natural consequences of these sorts of things, where it's just better to have it in the system, have it rolled on certain conditions, such that the players can remind the GM, for instance, hey, we're supposed to roll weather. Weather's a really good example. I remember talking to you about this in the Chilmas Valley interview. We included weather as a dedicated system because it was going to have an impact on a number of rules, including exploration, hunting, foraging, fishing, etc., as well as produce unique certain random encounters. And I think the example I used was, if you're assaulting a desert outpost, even a purely combat-centric game, if you are assaulting a desert outpost, whether you do so under either at night, under the cover of the blazing sun, or under the cover of a sandstorm, completely changes how your group is going to engage in those encounters and how we're going to evaluate how the game progresses. It's going to change play at the table. Now, if you say things like, well, just leave weather up to the DM, well, most people forget about weather. I forget about weather. That's why I made a system for it. And are you in a position to say, all right, well, today it's a tornado, apropos of nothing. Today's a tornado.
Yeah, just fiat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's that particular example is one that I don't know. I'd probably be like, okay, weather is one I could go either way on. But I will say the consequences of the weather, I think that is a little bit more significant because, then if there are a lot of things that I don't understand the consequences of referencing rules helps. Basically the rules are there to help you keep you from making stupid rulings, more or less.
Yeah.
If there is some kind of simulation aspect that's being accurately portrayed, hopefully not so deep or granular that you spend forever trying to do it. So I agree with you. And there have been such situations. I have had situations when, early on when people reminded me about morale. And I was like, oh, shit, I probably should be checking for morale because they don't all fight to the death. Why would they, especially in this particular situation?
I don't know when people are supposed to run. I play mostly combat-centric games. I still don't know when people are supposed to run. Abstracting that to a role helps me not make the silly decision of just having all my guys fight to the death every single time, or running at the first sight of danger.
I have to. I like this guy. I like this camp kill commentary guy just because y'all two are so abrasive toward each other.
Out in the chat. He keeps calling me a DM, which is weird because I'm not a DM. I'm a designer.
It's
and as such, the emo goth kid gets to enjoy the superiority of that distinction.
I am not a designer. I'm a mere peasant, unfortunately. Jeremy says, agree that D&D is generally levels 1 to 12 in my experience across all the editions, playing and DMing since 1983, and have been in a handful of campaigns that went above 10th level, most end due to TPK. It's kind of a shame. That does seem to be the thing. I'm really looking forward to high level play, but I want to make sure that they get there is the thing. And my God, if you're working from the beginning, then that's a pretty hefty, climb. And depending,
that's a long time. You're sacrificing a lot of healing potions and stuff like that, and just selling them off just so you could inch towards that gold requirement for training.
Yep. Yep. How much can I get for this? How much can I get that? It becomes some really serious things. Let's see. It's a point no one argued. He needs to finish addressing 1-to-1. Okay. Yeah. We did. Oh, okay. He said then he described something that was not 1-to-1. I think there's just like some confusion about how this applies. I think what we might have to do is just how, like, I don't know, introduce a play report. Yeah, that's a good idea. Do you know any that like make a good example out of 1-to-1?
So let's see here. B-Dubs does some pretty good player reports.
Oh, he's such a dick. I'm just kidding.
What's up?
I said he's such a dick, though.
He's my favorite Catholic schizo, and he is. We go at each because I'm the filthy anarchist of the Bro SR. We will occasionally laugh at each other, but like they're such delightful people. But very much they have the in-group down. Like if you are not a part of the in-group and you start going after in-group, you're going to get dunked on. I hope Camp Kill.
I can't even remember what he and I were arguing about. But it gets lost at a certain point where it's just name calling it.
It is, but it's name calling for the sake of the in-group. That's the thing. It's like a constant stream of entertainment.
Yeah.
For those following him.
Yeah.
Woe betide anybody who's been chosen to have an example made out of them. Tied, is that a fucking word? I don't think it's a word. I'm tired. A video on how 1-to-1 games should work together. That would be nice because that's should be skilled enough. See, that's how we lost 1-to-1 time to begin with, and I'm not so confident in random people who have no barrier to entry to changing rules, who then go on to just change rules when they're not designers, so they don't understand how the game works. I'm sorry, I see too many people just change shit because it just, just change shit because it's slightly inconvenienced them. And now they're going to ignore all the other rule sets. Like 1-to-1 time changed or answered so many design questions I had, which are apparently 50 years old. And we lost them 50 years ago because DMs went in and they were inconvenienced by the concept of 1-to-1 time. And so they decided to get rid of it. And it's like, well, now I've lost these tremendous creative rules because people thought they knew better and they didn't, and kept creating problems for themselves that their original rule set had already answered.
I don't know. Maybe they
were convinced.
Maybe they knew better for their particular situation, because we've kind of already put out there that unless you're playing multiple parties several times a week, that kind of thing, then it's not going to produce the same effect. I guess you could. No, but you still kind of need multiple parties. So I don't know.
With single parties, like because it's still decent with single parties. I did a few play reports on this actually for the Chilmas Valley test campaign, and this was even though there's only one party, it still maintained its utility in showing the players that they were sort of losing the game because they were constantly not making progress. And when they went into big fights, they would just spam cantrips and not use their bigger spells, despite being 8th and 9th level spellcasters, and just constantly lost those. So the designers are the ones who are trying to take advantage of the conceits of the medium, and if they're good designers, that's sort of blotting out almost everything else. The DM, even if they're trying to make the game just better for their own individual game, I'm still more inclined to be cynical and say that they're just tossing things because they're inconveniencing them. Because they're not, like I said, they're not evaluating it based on the conceits of the medium. They're that's overpowered. That killed my cool bad guy, so we're getting rid of this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's certainly some bad takes. Like I read this thing earlier, and that's, I don't know if you saw, but I was trying to do a very incendiary thread from it, but somebody was basically saying it's okay to fudge, actually, yeah, basically that's all they're saying. It's okay to fudge. And they were saying that their players are better off for it, more or less, because, they would be upset if the bad thing happened or whatever. And then I'm just like, I can't, I can't imagine that your players all are in agreement on that. Like, what kind of sad sacks are over there? Like, oh yeah, I'll take these unearned victories. Thanks, mommy.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and they're changing it because they think it's better for the group.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, I mean, so I definitely believe that. I believe in tweaking systems. I believe in tweaking them for the right reasons, which is basically, creating the right outcome for the the style that you play the game. And if you want to make your own game out of it, then go for it. That's cool. Sell it, do all that kind of stuff. But let's see.
I had something rattling around in my head, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. When it comes to one-to-one time and sort of not caring about the players or the characters as much, having sort of a living, breathing world and the players just sitting in it, it opens the question of player versus player. Because I don't want to make this into a massive tangent or anything. If somebody gets a hold of, like you were saying, 25,000 years ago, somebody gets a hold of the +1 sword +3 versus lycanthropes, and somebody else wants it. There's only one.
There could only be one.
What if the other player takes it or tries to take it? Can that be an actual event? Is it not are they not considered special enough to where you can take it away from another player?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, so I mean, I had considered that in my public game, and I basically said it's not happening. Like, if what I did was, because I kind of had prepared for eventualities, is I didn't want people to hate each other, and I had a feeling that that's the way that it would go. Like, especially when it comes to those kinds of things, I'm sure that there exists people that are willing to play in that kind of atmosphere and love it. But at the same time, I didn't know if I had that group yet, so for me, I was like, we're not going to do that. If you happen to be the one who gets the magic item, then it's yours. And even then, because we couldn't necessarily narrow it down by, who gets it whenever we locate it is even a thing, because whenever we're playing in groups of 8 characters, and we're playing BX, so there's only 7 possibilities. There's at least one duplicate in the group, as far as class goes, and you don't have such things as in AD&D where, well, I'm only good with sputums and I don't know, bardishes and all that kind of shit. Like, instead it's like, no, I'm a fighter, I'm good with everything. Well, so am I'm good with everything. We can all use this. Hey, I'm a thief, I can use all those weapons too. Fuck, who gets the thing? So we had to do roll-offs because that was really the only. And then if you stopped playing, if your character is inactive for a certain length of time and you have magic items, they're repopulating, just because that cool thing, it's going in the auction house. It's, this kind of thing or that, that way they don't just disappear into the ether. I know it's kind of gamey, but it was.
Would it make more sense to have the PC become an NPC and be an encounter?
I was literally thinking that.
Go ahead.
Like, we're just briefly, it's like taken from the same principle, that is, if this person doesn't play for a while, this item is eventually going to make it to an auction house and eventually make it to somewhere else on the map. You do not have total authority over what it is that your character is doing. There are circumstances under which, for instance, your character does not hit, your character flees from an encounter, from an enemy, and similarly, based on that, there is precedent in the rules for me to be able to look at something and say, okay, this person is no longer acting in the capacity of a player character, so they're going to get turned into an NPC for the purpose of resolving this one thing. And maybe you gain access to them later. Maybe you control said NPC for that encounter, or rather direct their actions for that particular encounter. That's totally fine.
It's a pretty natural way to handle it. I like it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And just one-to-one time would tell me exactly when it is that they got to do that, or how long they might have to chase this other character in order to do it. So, which is, here's an advantage of the one-to-one time rule. Instead of just deciding this is when the PC turned NPC is going to attack the fellow PC because they have an item that they want. Now I'm going to track X, Y, Z. I have to just like block this from this side of my screen. Now the player character, I have a way of doing that actually. There we go. And Questing Beast did in fact find it. Now you have to track how long it's going to take this NPC to get into this PC's part of town, whether or not they're actually going to be able to meet each other. Maybe the PC leaves town beforehand. So maybe by the time the NPC actually makes it to the player character, they've either been beaten down and battered that they no longer want to do this, or maybe they've picked up like a mercenary company to help them along the way. And one-to-one time gives you a very straightforward means of evaluating when and where and how and with what means this NPC is going to attack the player character. All thanks to keeping track of time. Deciding it.
John D is here to remind us that Questing Beast is the one who found it. The glorious man, the archaeologist. Camp Kill Commentary says, okay, answer me this. My campaign has time travel. Help me handle that with one-to-one. So I would say that then you would end up having, depends, do they all have time travel? Whoever has time travel, whoever is deviating off of a different, whoever's using, whatever groups are using time travel, you're going to be tracking all kinds of them. And like, while they're off in this place, it's still, time is still passing, in
the present.
Time is still passing in the present.
It's passing in the present, but it's also passing in the past where they're at if they're sticking there for a while.
Yeah, the thing that I was there's a specific variant or type of time travel, which is because this person didn't specify because they're just trying to score points, swing dick, and catch us in a thing. But we could still use this example to come up with interesting ruling, certainly. But there's a specific variant of time travel, which is when you travel back in time, whatever point you traveled from, time still progresses at an even rate from that point. So if you, by whatever means you go back to normal time, like whatever your present is, it's going to be however long you spent in the past. Move forward. Does that make sense? Like if you spend 3 days in the past, you don't go back to where you were. You go back to where you were plus 3 days.
Well, I'd imagine you'd go back to wherever you specify if you have that kind of control.
It's the conceit of this particular type of time travel that you don't have that kind of control.
Say you did.
No.
If you're using that kind of restriction to make it so, then sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I personally like the time travel machine in with Bob and David, which basically has a hyphenator, so it can be a real time travel machine, or it can be a real time travel machine.
Right.
So you can put a hyphen on there. And so it's pretty good. It's a good sketch. Y'all should
the
watch
conceit of what I described is you can go back and you could still, even despite having access to time travel, you still have you could still include certain time limits on certain events occurring. Because if you're going back in time for some event that will stop an assassination, it was a piece of this one video game.
Oh shit, dude! I just realized what time it is. We're actually in Legion of Myths slot. Fuck.
Oh.
We need to wrap this up. I didn't even realize. I thought it was still 7 something. It's 8 something. Okay. No. That's perfectly fine. I just don't like stepping on other people's time slots. Let's try and run through comments because I don't want to disregard. And we'll try and do it kind of quickly. Let's see. Most DMs are trash, sad truth. I don't really agree. I feel like a lot of DMs have lower standards than they could, but the thing is, okay, a lot of players are happy with it, you know. I don't know, maybe Aaron, do you smell the subtle elitist attitude? I don't know
where I'm sitting. Yes, of course.
Your players don't know any better. They'll take whatever you give them. I don't know. Like I wouldn't say that they're trash, but I think I don't know. I don't think so. I've had bad luck. Maybe I'm believing that I've had bad luck. I've had a lot of not great DMs. So
I wouldn't say that they're trash. I'd say occasionally they go into other domains of the game that they shouldn't be in, like play, DM NPCs or DMPCs.
Oh God.
Or design, which is, tinkering rule sets that they know nothing about. But even in those cases, that doesn't necessarily make them bad DMs.
Game mediocres rather than game masters.
That was really good. I laughed at that like half an hour ago, and it hits just as hard right now. It's so good.
I kind of believe it's like not really okay to fudge a random table. With the note that basically if you have a random table outcome that is implausible, then you really don't have a choice but to re-roll. But as far as like fudging it, not really. I wouldn't fudge that either. But I don't know. I'm not going to hate people too much on that. It doesn't like I know that makes it sound like I'm being kind of partial on that as far as, but the intent's a little different. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm starting to feel like maybe I should be against fudging on random table
because you could make the random table.
Yeah, you
that's
make
within the GM's purview to develop that kind of content. You're like, well, it doesn't make sense for the red dragon to be here. It's like, all right, well. Too bad. I don't care. Even then, in the worst case scenario, your option is then to re-roll the table, I suppose.
Let's see. When you want to jump 2 years, a lot of money, a lot of money gets used up, really. But
that's about it. You jump 2 years.
I mean, I've had a game stop, and then 2 real world years happened, and I jumped 35 years in the game for the next session.
Each of my seasons of the West March, I tended to, and this is before I knew about 1-to-1 time, actually, I would tend to just jump the world state for about a year. Because they usually happen about every fall to every winter.
Well, so Frog Knight, he keeps raising this point, saying that they're just describing time tracking. Specifically, so for my Old School Essentials game, my public game, I'll give you real examples. So we're playing on Monday night. It is, January, 1st. We'll just do that for convenience. They go on their quest or whatever. The group that's playing on January 3rd, which would be Wednesday, in that they would, be doing stuff. So, one game day, one real day, basically. The only time that we would like go out of that scope is, so like, let's say they need to travel for, I don't know, like 8 days or something. Well, actually, no, let's go back to the original example. Group A, the next time they play, it's it's January 8th. You know, so because it's been a week. Unless they played, let's say that they played for, I don't know, 6 days. Let's say they played 6 days of no. Let's say they played 14 days of game time. Then maybe, like, if we're using the way that I'm understanding what's written on, you know, page 37, 38, then we would let the other group maybe go twice, I guess, or like try and let them play until they're kind of caught up and we're all on the same date, roughly about January. I guess it would be 15th at that point. I don't know. That's kind of how I interpret it. But the point is, though, is that if there's nothing like really going on, that you make sure if you don't play for a week, then a week passes in the game. That's if you don't play for a month passes in the game. That's kind of how I interpret it. I don't know. It's high guy gags.
Right.
Those blogs, they might have something really. This is like a discussion on an episode of Big Bang Theory minus the hot chicks. Fair.
I think I was on the time travel thing, and that was fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Time travel is a difficult beast to play with. You know, it's not hard at all if you're it still can have its issues if you're playing with a single party, but not nearly as bad as if you're playing with multiple parties. Dear God, I can't even.
I think time travel.
Find a system in which it's not a fucking mess to evaluate.
You said you're heading out?
No. No.
Oh,
I'm saying that time travel is a red flag to me.
Oh, I've done it, and it's worked out well. I had this lich that was he had some time travel shenanigans, and there were the things out of Mechanist were after him because he had been screwing around with things, and they were trying to enforce the laws of time and space and all that kind of stuff, and it was a good time. It was a good time.
Red flags don't have to indicate horrible. They just have to indicate the potential for horrible.
I know that red flag is horrible. Orange flag is potential for horrible.
Okay, orange flag then. I will use your terminology that I've never heard of.
Yeah, well, somebody was saying the other day, I'm just like, red flags are never, like, that's whenever you really fucked up. I don't know. Like maybe even just a yellow flag. I don't know. Because now I'm thinking soccer, and I'm like, you only throw flags whenever they fuck up.
No more flag talk.
No more flag talk. Let's see. I want no lies from my GM. Absolutely. Make your random table make sense as much as you possibly can. Go ahead.
You're not going to get not lies. Lies are going to happen.
I'm going to say okay. Actually, I did a video on this. It was back in my earlier videos about DM alignments, and I disagree that fudge is lawful evil. I feel like it's chaotic, and then you would have lawful. I mean, it'd be chaotic, neutral, good, or evil depending on what their reasoning for fudging is, basically. But
it'd be chaotic evil if they fudged every roll.
So you could.
So at that point, they're fudging on the principle of something else was rolled. So like, no, I'm going to fucking change that.
See, what I love about this is that you could make a very paternalistic argument that if you fudge in order to help the players all the time, then you're chaotic evil because you're teaching them to be bad players. Or you're not teaching them the life lessons of things bad happen and you have to grow from them and all that kind of stuff.
It's very important.
Yeah, so I guess maybe then the chaotic good one. No. Fudging is never good. It's always evil. Never mind. Let's see. Oh, but the random table making sense thing, it'll make sense until it doesn't really. Especially depending on how broadly you're using it. I'll have the same random table in my dungeon perhaps, but after I've slain the the Knoll chieftain and taken out most of those forces, then if I roll up that Knoll more Knolls in the dungeon, maybe that's not plausible anymore. So I might have
or maybe it is, because maybe there's just another group of Knolls.
Yeah.
Or maybe the Knolls have elected a new chieftain, the ones that got away.
That may not have been the best example on my part, but that was just the first one that popped up.
Well, that's the thing. I think for most people, they don't want to be held to. That's the first kind of example that they're going to come to, because they don't want to be held to what they don't want is to be held to the random table. They just want to pick something, or be free to look at something there and say, I don't like it, and do something else. And so they have to come up with some justification for it, which is, well, maybe something already happened. But if you could have one red dragon in a dungeon, couldn't you have two? And what the DM doesn't want but the DM doesn't want two red dragon treasure hoards. Well, too bad. Too bad.
So, Death Bear.
Well, that's chaotic neutral.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and lead out by saying that I love this guy. He's a great guy. He actually ran Dungeon World for me. So he says, "Are we dogging fellow that has a successful YouTube channel and game because he pointed out something to people?" Yes. So first off, I'm incredibly jelly. That he has exactly. Well, actually, not exactly. I haven't done the math, but about 45 times more subs than I do. He has a successful Patreon. He's a successful game designer, highly acclaimed, and all this kind of stuff. And so because he did something, I have to make fun of him because I'm petty like that. But in all honesty, it's really just for the meme more than anything else. Like I pointed out in the video that he didn't really make it as, I didn't feel like he made it as big of a deal as some people are making it out to be. It's like, other people are kind of like, wow, I can't believe he created this timekeeping mechanism in patron play and, competitive play in multiple groups. And, like he made it happen. Wow. We needed Fiore for that, but not dogging on him. I'm
definitely dogging him. That's a serious, when you have a group of people who have been desperately trying to spread this to the wider tabletop role-playing community, constantly themselves getting dogged on, and then one dickhead comes through
deservedly getting dogged on for being
not
shit.
Deservedly, because they're constantly saying, here are the benefits and advantages of using these particular rule sets, and you get people like Can't Kill Commentary spurging out the comments and having conniptions over the fact that anybody has made any kind of declaration that one rule might be better than another rule, right? This is the shit they have to deal with. And then you have one person come through and say, oh, that's a good idea. And not even mention them. Like, mention your sources. Why not?
So he did. All right. So he mentioned he mentioned some sources. So we could go into, do we believe? Huh?
Did he mention Jeffro Johnson?
Oh, no.
Then he didn't.
See, that's the thing, though. I think it's plausible. No. I don't know how plausible, but I do think it's plausible.
Not at all.
I think it's
no, it isn't.
So this could be hindsight bias.
No.
This could be, but well, okay. Hear me out. I do believe that if I had read the DMG by myself without having had all this stimulating talk that I've had with Jeffro and reading his things and all that, that I would have come to similar conclusions, perhaps.
How many people have done that in the past 50 years?
I don't
Jeffro.
I know that. I mean, so he cites Justin Alexander. He cites Zarkov, I think is his name. I have one of his modules, but
I'm not familiar with that guy, but it sounds familiar.
He wrote the punchline for
Zarkov Kowalski.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've heard. I mean, I liked the punchline, and some of his. I've heard his other stuff's good too. But and then other than that, it was pretty much just 0E and 1E. So I don't know. I think it's possible. Is it likely? Maybe not. It might be that he
incredibly unlikely.
Him. He might.
How would he have not come across these guys?
Well, he has been off of Twitter for at least a year, I feel, because basically people started losing their their nuts when it came to him reviewing Lamentations material. Ironically, since we're bringing up Zarkov, and he just said, "See ya, bye, Felicia." Mm-hmm. Yeah, instead of fighting with people on it, he just left Twitter. It was around that time. I guess I should clarify. It was around that time. He didn't say that was the reason. I don't know that he made any kind of announcements, but it was around that time whenever people were basically trying to pressure him into not covering it, and his Patreon people were still requesting it. So, yeah. I think it's possible. And like I said before,
it's not even possible. It's I'm sorry. I'm not even going to go with incredibly unlikely. It's not even possible. These are the only people who've been talking about it with any degree of not just one-off blog posts, but constant session and play reports and meditations on the mechanic. Jeffro is the source for this.
Yeah.
I can't really dispute that because I don't know. I read a lot of places, and that's the only place I've really encountered most of it.
I haven't seen, so I don't read Justin Alexander religiously, but I do follow him. I do read his blog.
It was written in 2011, and it was about how they would play during lunchtime, and he's like, I don't think we'll ever go back to those days because I don't think we can. But that kind of thing. It sounded like it was reminiscing about the way that they used to play. Right. I don't know how. I didn't read it deeply enough in order to see like how much he goes into like all that.
Usually, stuff. Alexander posts are actually pretty small.
Yeah, I'm not really. I can't lie on all that. The DM James says, "What are your thoughts on fudging dice?" Ooh. Oh, you're not on Twitter anymore. You can't see me saying that people that do it are degenerate. But yeah, that's not the word anymore. I changed it. You changed it. You can't change my tweets. No, the word fudging is not. Oh yeah. She had a video about changing because she hates the term. It is now known as being a sick fucking person. I'm kidding. Being a degenerate, yeah. Let's see. Yeah. If people want to have, I find time travel was really fun, and the way that we made it work. I could see how it could go wrong though. Let's see. These are some the comment section. Y'all are gonna keep us going like forever because y'all are hilarious. Okay. So he says, "How's pointing it bad?" It's not bad. I haven't been complaining about the fact that he made the video or anything. I did see some like that is the whole thing. Let me see if I'm just trying to catch up.
I am saying it's bad because if you're not putting out your sources at a bunch of people, if people have been working diligently for a year to throw this in your face and expose you to it and actually play with it and explain how it here's how it works. Let me demonstrate how this thing actually works. That is, and you then ignore those people. I think that's a huge dick move. I think it's a huge dick move. So I am saying it's bad. Because all he would have had to say was like, hey, there's this group of guys, could have done the total disavow and be like, Jeffro's an asshole, this schizo monarchist is a Catholic monarchist is an asshole. This Joy of Wargaming guy is an asshole. This Asher Creativity guy is an asshole. Gone through the entire Chanticleer guy is an asshole. Elffinder General is an asshole. They're all terrible people, but they happen to find this one really good rule.
He can't do any of that, and the reason why is because of the service that he provides, which is to be a very inoffensive, newbie-friendly portal.
Right.
So he can't mention anyone, even in a remotely positive or negative light, who is controversial in any way.
You just say Jeffro Johnson, author of the book Appendix N.
Yeah, that's
which would not turn an 8-minute video into a 15.
If it's a controversial person, then it's still controversial.
Yeah.
That is the mentality currently in the universe.
In which case, it's still a dick move.
Yeah, that's true.
It's still a dick move, and it would not take 15 minutes to point out everybody because it was one specific group of people who unearthed this for the rest of us, for the rest of our benefits. I think it's a shame. The good news is I get to keep hanging out with those guys, so I get to see what it is that these other D&D YouTubers are going to steal in a year's time.
The funny thing is, the beginning of us complaining about Questing Beast is the guy commenting that we were complaining about Questing Beast.
Well, so this is something that is being brought up. So remember, we brought up the afterword earlier to try and because the guy was basically saying Rule 0, change it, etc. So I guess we got to. This is first page. I'm not going to do the whole thing because a lot of it is not really addressing the issue. Okay, there are plenty of areas where your own creativity and imagination are not bounded by the parameters of the game system. These are sections where only a few hints and suggestions are given and the rest are left to DM. So there you go. You have your parameters. You work within the parameters. And if it's not in there, then you do your own thing. Okay. He had to only include what was vital. More realistic.
It's saying it's in the forward. Is Dungeon Mastery and Order of Science?
It's mostly this part right here that I think he was referencing, but I don't think that it ultimately goes in that direction. It's this part right here. If your work as a DM has been if your work as a DM has been sufficient, the players will have all they can handle upon arrival, so let them get there. The game is the thing, and certain rules can be distorted or disregarded altogether in favor of play. Know the game systems, and you will know how and when to take upon yourself the ultimate power to become the final arbiter rather than the interpreter of the rules. Can be a difficult and demanding task, and it cannot be undertaken lightly. For your players, expect to play this game, not one you made up on the spot. So you can't lose the identity of the
by Mike Carr.
Is that by Mike Carr?
The forward. It's Dungeon Mastering and Order of Science.
Oh God, yeah. I thought he was talking about. Yeah. Well, I mean I wasn't even considering
that. Mine has
that.
forward by Mike Carr, and I assume that's what he's meaning. None of which actually matters, because GYGAX still went through the entire thing and made declarative statements like, if you need to, you must engage in strict timekeeping if you want to have a meaningful campaign. So you could say, well, Gygax said that you could change the rules. He's like, yes, but he also called you a retard for doing so. Throughout the entirety of the book. Throughout the entirety of the book, he explains to you the specific consequences, by deduction, really, of not following these specific rule sets. I don't understand why this is like, oh, well, if I have one line out of 80 in which Gygax is not making a declarative statement and saying, do whatever you want, I don't know what that has. I don't understand what the bearing on the conversation is. It's like, well, I can do whatever I want. It's like, well, yeah, we already told you that. Nobody's going to break down your door and shoot you for changing the rules. But there will be negative consequences often to doing so in the context of this game.
Yeah, I mean, even here, I'm not quite seeing. Okay, so the forward by Mike Carr. I mean,
which I still don't see it in here.
I don't know. The part that I was talking about was I
mean, we're currently placating a person who's all caps in the chat, so
I think he's literally going insane right now. It's like, well, the book says I can do whatever I want. The book says what I can do.
Yeah, my thing is that pretty much everywhere where it kind of starts to clarify is like, within the bounds, and It must have some degree of uniformity.
Within the context of the rules, the game as a whole first, then your campaign, then your players.
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous. And even if it were the case, it would not change whether we were able to look at a rule and evaluate how following it or not following it changed the game, for worse or for ill. Except for worse or for ill. That's not better. That's how I am tired.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to give. Is he giving a specific quote? I'm just looking in the PDF at this point.
He didn't give a specific quote.
Okay, it's hard to address exactly what he's saying if he doesn't provide a specific quote. But basically, I mean, everything that I'm reading is saying that, you know, it's that fine line that you're balancing for the most part. So I'm not quite satisfied with that. But then again, I mean, I've read this a million times and I'm already on it. He quoted the passage. Zeb Cook plainly explains. Well, Zeb Cook isn't.
Yeah, it's
Zeb Cook can suck my dick. How about that?
I mean, are we talking about Oriental Adventures?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I guess he is being a little bit crazy. I didn't want to enter. Like,
this is the problem with when you have objective discussions like this, or discussions that attempt to figure out some objectivity with which we can evaluate rule sets and their impact on the game. You get these people who just, I mean, they go insane. They go insane because now their authority as a DM has been questioned, and some of their choices have been questioned. And it's like, man, in this conversation, we went back and we said, all right, for the purpose of Aaron's AD&D game, he doesn't have multiple groups, and he's only able to run.
Oh, is he talking about second edition?
Yeah, Zeb Cook is the second edition dude. And also, he also ghost wrote Oriental Adventures for first edition. But
okay,
so he's talking about the second edition DMG.
Okay, that's a whole different
a different fucking game, you idiot.
You don't have to call him an idiot. Come on.
Yes, I do.
Also, the
first of all, yes, I do. Second of all,
God.
I mean, second edition is definitely AD&D, but like, you know, when we're talking about first edition, we're talking about first. Like, you know,
it's a kind of AD&D.
Yeah.
A second edition, if you will.
Well, then why didn't you bring the quote from Chainmail? And why does this have any impact on whether or not you can evaluate a rule objectively and evaluate its impact on the game? No matter how many times you say, well, this guy told me I could do whatever I want, that's not going to change this conversation about, does this rule work better for these situations, and does it have an impact on the game that we regard as being positive or negative for its purpose? It's not going to stop it, because we're not actually having this conversation to validate you as a DM and whether or not you're a good DM. We're having this conversation because we're evaluating the design of the game.
He says second edition was perfect, and I have to say, we do have two people that like second edition in this stream. Well, Aaron, you like it, right?
Okay, so of the AD&Ds, it is my preferred, but that doesn't mean much if you know my tastes of things.
I like it as a player. I haven't run second edition. I've only played it, and I enjoyed it. So I don't know what everything that's going on under the hood, but I'm sure that it was probably easier to understand than first edition.
That's part of it. There's also many caveats, like eventually it bloated itself out of even remote use.
What happens after the first rule books? That's a whole other thing, man. Come on.
Well,
otherwise,
actually, so some of the stuff that happened after the first rule books is the good stuff from second edition, and then it blew itself out of proportion.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I know there are people saying second is not AD&D. I mean, it is though.
It is,
I mean, it's not Gary's AD&D. We can say that. You know, it's not. It's not what Gygax intended.
I mean,
it's
relatively
Gygax. We're doing to him what he did to fucking Arneson.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of plagiarism in it. I mean, it's essentially a reprinting of first edition for babies. That was it was designed specifically to make Bad happy, like Two Women in Wisconsin or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, and of course to get Gary to not get royalties for having written the core books for TSR anymore. I mean, at least that's how I feel like that's how it went. Looking back on it, it seems like that was the decision for second edition.
Are you saying that I have a Flock of Seagulls haircut, or are you talking about James? How dare you?
No, I think he's going with the seagull haircut. Yeah, that's me. I'm sorry, dude. I didn't wash my hair before the stream. I come back.
We're not talking about me.
Yeah, there it is.
It's theoretically possible.
It is theoretically possible that I have a Flock of Seagulls haircut or a Misfits haircut.
Well, I think we're just about caught up.
Good.
At least on chat is, you know, so I do need to cut it because, like I said, I went way into Legion of Myths, and I'm gonna have to apologize, you know. But thank you guys for stopping by and chatting. Ultimately, like, you know, we all three of us probably on here, we all probably disagree, you know, on a lot of this as far as like where the lines are and all that kind of stuff. But it's fun to talk, you know, and disagree and all that kind of stuff, you know. It makes for good lulls, and clearly the chat disagrees as well. So
I mean, remember, everything I said was actually that your game sucks was the translation of everything I said all across the stream. You can just sum up everything I've said so far as your specific game. Remember, whenever I'm talking about anything that has to do with the rule set, what I really mean is that your specific game sucks. Whoever is listening.
I agree with his statement. I think your game sucks too.
Yeah.
So, you know.
To be fair, my game kind of does suck. Thank you to all my players for putting up with it. Yeah, but all right, y'all have a good one. Thanks for coming by, everybody in the chat. Thanks for chatting. Y'all make things a lot more interesting. Like, you know, the stream would die a lot sooner if it wasn't for y'all pushing things forward. So,
yeah.
And definitely thanks to Iran for popping in for the first time in forever, and for James for doing so as well. All right. Do the 1-to-1 time video. People could use an intro video. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what we can cook up on that. All right, y'all take it easy. Hey, 21 viewers isn't bad.
Nope.
See y'all.